Hello everybody, welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today we're doing government and social news, and some of you may have noticed Ryan has returned.
Still in pain.
Is it really?
Is it healing at least?
I think so.
That's good. You know, if you get into like artificial disc territory, that's not a fun surgery.
Oh, believe me. I'm reading a lot about it. The apparently if it's a pulled or strained muscle, it's up to 3 weeks. So I'm going to give myself up to 3 weeks before I start considering suicide.
I heard you kind of like huffing and puffing up the stairs, and I was like, oh, he must still be hurting.
The stairs, actually, but I did the stairs twice on Wednesday, and they were way worse than they were today. So, you know, silver linings, right? But there are no silver linings for this man, because he did a very stupid thing. He marketed phones to people that he knew were criminals, and he marketed them in a way that was explicitly for crime. And you can't do that, especially when the FBI is already monitoring.
The U.S. has extradited a man who allegedly sold backdoored phones for the FBI. He is one of 16. Remember the Anom phones that the FBI had taken over? Well, they got him.
Oops.
And not only did they get him, they got almost everybody he sold a phone to because they were already in.
Yeah. Yep. And this is actually not the first story that we're going to find like this. At this point, it has eroded to the point that it's actually a little bit scary. There was the guy in Florida that was doing the classes on how much of a scam polygraph or lie detector tests are. And they got him on federal charges. He was found guilty, which is ridiculous.
The polygraph has no science behind it, but they protect it desperately because it's such a great tool.
Yeah,
it's like the drug dog.
Yeah, a rando showed up in this guy's class, and he was like, I'm going to use this for criminal purposes. And it's like, you moron, don't say that. And that was still enough to, have the guy arrested and found guilty, which is ridiculous.
No, well, listen. It's always the gun's fault, right? That SUV ran over those people.
That's not even a gun. It's just an imaginary. It's like your imaginary placebo device.
It's much more dangerous.
Stop pointing out the free energy device doesn't work.
An idea is much more. The pen and the sword, right? That's the true thing they fear.
Listen, it's illegal to point out that the free energy device doesn't work. Just saying.
Well, another thing that might be in the same realm of the free energy device, and that it's not real, is cryptocurrency, right? And, people are going to argue that our regular currency isn't that much more real, but the people who are in charge of that are suddenly taking interest in cryptocurrency because they can't stop it. What can they do?
The Payments Journal, this a
paywall alternative? Yeah.
Attention in Washington shifts from crypto writ large to stablecoins. So this is not a good headline. This is a smokescreen, basically. Washington is looking at stablecoins and trying to regulate them like as if they are banks to make them follow the rules of the bank. Do we have the Peter Thiel story, or is that coming in business? There's a related story to this with business because some billionaires that are in the crypto bro.
You mean where he spoke at the conference?
Yeah.
It's probably it's probably business.
So we got the competing factions of billionaires, which is always fun to watch. Like, we can always watch from the outside.
Is it fun to watch that, though, as a poor?
Yeah, no, I mean, it kind of is.
In this case, yeah.
But here is let me just give you a reset for your mental process to look at this and process it for what it is. Look at PayPal. What rules does PayPal have to follow? And if the crypto stuff that they're proposing is more rules than PayPal, it's really about the good old boys network and not actually about protecting idiots from doing bad things with crypto.
Yeah, but, when you bring it into the stablecoin realm, that argument makes sense. But as long as they move in value versus the dollar, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, as long as they move in value versus the dollar. But you got all the pump and dump schemes and everything else. And again, PayPal can just take your money and there's nothing you can do because they're not regulated.
Yeah.
As they have.
I think, but PayPal ultimately must denominate back to a regular currency.
Yeah, they don't. Yes, they take your money in a different way. I would concede that.
But I'm saying it's not a threat that PayPal pushes out the dollar because PayPal is the dollar.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, they don't say that that's why they're doing that. They say that they're trying to protect people.
That's the real reason.
Yeah, right. Maybe maybe in our position as, and I'm not even saying we're, like smart or anything. It's just that we read all of these week after week after week and we talk about them. At this point, that statement, you would have to be, like your brain would have to be shutting down right now.
So smooth.
For you to even present that.
Yeah.
And we know that AI is a big part of all this new technology capture of our minds and our worlds. And AI is running everything now, but it's not always great, and sometimes maybe it's discriminatory.
California suggests taking aim at AI-powered hiring software, automated HR, and the crosshairs over discrimination law. It's the thing we've all experienced where you go to the website and you fill out the form, and that's your
Please
resume.
upload your resume.
And then you upload your resume, and it's just like, I want to die.
What a waste of time.
This is a symptom of a different problem. We're all building these sort of Kafka-esque jails for ourselves, and it is pervasive at every level of life, not just the job application process. So, California, if you're going to do this, go all the way.
Now, the argument here is they're saying that, yes, we do have to exclude all of the things that are illegal from our hiring stuff for the AI. For example, gender, race, religion, and so forth. But because big data is so powerful and because these data sets are so rich, they've actually figured out ways to sort of extrapolate those values from other values. And it's pretty effective. So California's saying, hey, we know that you can't click the Hispanic box, but we know that you can figure out that. And you can filter if you want to.
It's even more insidious than that. There was the software engineer guy who was legit good at his job, and he had some, crazy, super long name. Crazy doesn't imply anything there. And he changed the name on the resume to John Smith, and immediately he was getting callbacks and everything else, and he's like, literally, that's the only change that I made on my resume.
That happens too, where they'll submit a resume that's exactly the same for a man and a woman, and the man always gets the callback, but the woman doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What if AI hiring ends up having the same effect on surnames as like the name from the big war did? They won't hire me as a Gonzalez.
I have to change it.
Yeah, the Gonzalez name has to die, I guess. And we have the big Google case going on, and we learned a couple of weeks ago that Google has this crazy practice where they CC lawyers on every single email because that's attorney-client privilege. But because they do it on every single email in the discovery, some people are raising their eyebrows.
U.S. judge in Google case asks for more information on attorney-client privilege. So, that got the attention of the judge. The judge was basically saying, do what now?
He had a quote in here, and you could tell that he did not buy. Oh, yeah, it's, upon completing its review. So he's basically saying, yeah, I want to see it all. 21,000 emails.
Yeah.
Well, those lawyers were busy. So that'd be nice. Maybe we'll get to see those emails. And maybe that'll stop that from happening.
No, it
in
won't
the
stop
industry.
that. Ultimately, they'll create a tar pit here where it's just impossible for anybody to spend the time necessary to go through that and figure it out.
But there will always be some dedicated people who were like, yes, I love this. Let me look at it.
Unless there's some judge that has a chip on their shoulder to do that, they're not going to care.
We need judges who care. How do we get that?
You have to be a lot of changes.
Now, if you are a judge who cares or a politician who cares, you are going to be in the minority.
You're also going to be targeted.
So in the minority. And because of that,
EU officials targeted with Pegasus spyware. This article is not freaking out. There's not enough exclamation points and all caps lines in this.
blink tags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
is what Blink was invented for, and now it's not available.
There is no excuse for this. If NSO Group is participating in the roundtable of first world nations in commerce, this should not be a thing.
How do they know they're being spied on? Well, Apple, amazingly enough, because Apple sent everybody a text that said, hey, we have reason to believe that you're being monitored by spyware. And then they looked into it. Sure enough.
We figured out that we don't know how to do security. And when we looked into it and peeled back that curtain, oh boy, it was real bad.
Now, NSO Group has assured us over and over and over. In fact, we'll have stories where they say that exact same thing over and over again. They don't sell this to bad people. So who did it?
Huh.
Oh man, if only we could sideload things that could audit stuff.
Literal terrorism. And we have the old EU antitrust cases. There's just week after week, it just keeps happening.
Apple faces further charges in EU antitrust case triggered by Spotify. Apple will face additional antitrust charge. Okay, so Spotify, turns out, can stream music sometimes when Apple permits it and is okay with it, and do stuff with music, which Apple also does stuff with music. But Apple wants you to have a better experience with the Apple ecosystem and buying music there, not this Spotify swill.
Yeah, why would anybody use anything but Apple Music? It just works.
Except when it doesn't.
Do you guys remember a long, long time ago when the only thing in the news was Ukraine?
Wait.
That's still pretty common.
Still pretty common.
I know.
Yeah.
I said it's really fallen off in my news feeds.
It's interesting. They just succeeded in taking out the flagship
Ship.
Black Sea ship.
I can't remember. It starts with an M. I don't know how to pronounce
It's the
it.
Moscow, but it's in a...
That's the second time during this war they've hit a ship just firing rockets off the coast. I mean, that seems like the silliest thing in the world.
Yeah, they were like, this ship should not have been anchored this close to the
Yeah.
shore, and yet it was.
It almost didn't sink, but it finally did.
God, imagine how bad that is for the environment. That's the real environmental terrorism.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing a different news feed than you guys are. But like, I was consuming a lot of Ukraine stuff, and even my YouTube feed, it's tapering.
I mean, some of the quips are just amazing. It's like, finally, they take the battle to the real enemy, Aquaman.
He would be very angry about that. But Ukraine has, they have obvious problems, but they have some problems that are not so obvious, like the loss of their world and culture and everything. I mean, when things get bombed, they're just gone. So what do you do?
Meet the 1,300 librarians that are trying to back up Ukraine's digital archives. Well, not just back it up, but also capture historical text and capture artifacts and do 3D scans and that sort of thing, because when things are destroyed, they are very thoroughly destroyed.
So they use an
Very
example. There's an example in here. Some kind of obscure. Everybody uses the continue reading button now. It was like a Ukrainian general or something like that, or somebody, a poet. And this is probably something that is not documented in very many places.
Yeah.
And almost all of them are probably in Ukraine.
It's funny because a lot of the places in Ukraine actually predate a lot of the settlements in modern day Russia. Like Moscow is not anywhere near as old as Kiev.
Yeah, well, I mean, they just kept redrawing those lines.
Yeah.
It's still the same place, which is kind of Putin's argument. I don't agree with it, but that's his argument. Yes, our NSO Group story. And so this one makes a lot more sense after we saw the other one, because those EU leaders are probably not going to stay silent about this. And there's probably going to be a real bad time over at NSO unless...
Israel's NSO Group appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court for immunity in WhatsApp suit. Basically, they're looking to be declared a wing of an international government and therefore immune to any kind of federal lawsuits, even though their product has been deployed against U.S. citizens.
And international governments.
Huh. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Would you ever, I mean, let's say that you're the U.S. and you want to get in bed with that. Could you ever trust it?
No.
I don't think so.
It means you could never really even trust an iPhone, which is crazy because with just a little bit more work, an iPhone could actually be a reasonable trust platform. But you have the insanity of Apple and their insane control, which is like, the Empire in Star Wars. It's like the tighter they squeeze, the more cracks are going to be in their cryptographic armor and things will slip through. And, it's bad because the NSO Group stuff will be much more pervasive because people don't have the tools to even be able to have a security product or do the kind of auditing they need to see if the binaries that they're running are what they intended. So,
it's funny. We have such massive investment going into the, intrusion side of the equation.
Yeah.
And very little on the defense side of the equation.
Yeah, it really is completely stupid.
It's almost like everybody who matters actually wants the spying to occur.
Yeah, that's a border gateway protocol, being as horribly insecure as it is by design, has been kind of convenient for our intelligence service for a long time. They're like, nah, we don't really need to fix this completely. It's sort of handy.
Well, we have a lot of pity when it comes to Ukraine. They're getting the bad side of everything, but they're not the only ones having some issues in this conflict. Russia is also having some problems putting together supplies.
Russia cobbles together a supercomputing platform to wean off foreign suppliers. I read this. It's basically propaganda. They're trying to bring their Elberus system back from mothballs and make a system that can, sort of deal with a whole bunch of other different things. But
there was a quote at the end where some people actually tried to use it, and they're like, yeah, we can't even run the network equipment on this.
Yeah.
It's too trash.
Yeah. How cool is it going to be? I hope we're still alive in 20 or 30 years when the declassification thing happens. And it turns out that there was a CIA operation to buy old Russian tank parts on eBay. So they didn't do anything other than create a market for critical components for all. Like, that's the explanation for how badly things have how badly Russia has executed is literally that somebody in the CIA was buying on eBay and other third-party marketplaces the critical components for that stuff. So when you show up at a tank and it's like, why is half the engine missing, or why is the electronics missing? It's because the CIA was
been buying those pieces away, and it's so corrupt you can do that.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, Dimitri, listen, there's a market for this. Sell it on eBay, and it's like nobody will ever notice. And it's like, okay, that sounds good. Turns out it was CIA.
We'll never use this stuff anyway.
Turns out it was a CIA op the whole time.
But if they admit that, they would have to admit that they knew it was coming and did nothing.
Oh, they've already. Today's Friday. Today's Good Friday. When we're recording this, they've already threatened that we're going to have to get in a conflict with NATO, or Russia has. So, who knows what fresh hell will be out on Tuesday when this comes out.
Well, yeah, because all those border countries are suddenly jumping into their arms. It's going to get interesting.
I also think it's a different situation if we entice people to, steal from their employer and sell it on eBay versus, directly intervening. But,
I don't think Putin sees it that way. I think that's what matters. Well, El Salvador, boy, they had some good press there for a little while. He was the Bitcoin guy, the Bitcoin leader. He was the Bitcoin bro president, and everybody was excited about it. And maybe that was a little bit of a veneer.
Maybe premature to celebrate that.
Yeah, it might have been painted over some ugly wallpaper that was already there.
In response to killings, El Salvador's Bitcoin president attacked civil liberties. So they rounded up 6,000 people completely indiscriminately, and they have no clothes. And
that was part of it.
Yeah, and that's not a good look.
Now, I do have to take the same approach here as I took when I looked at the migrants getting off those buses. Like, I understand that some innocent people are going to get caught up in this. A lot of neck tattoos. And I judge that. Sorry. That makes me think you might be a member of another group. China, meanwhile, not getting a lot of headlines because of everything else, but they are cracking down in a big way on their tech sector. And they're really, other than locking people in their homes, they're locking down their entertainment.
Tencent shuts down its rival to Amazon's Twitch as China crackdown on tech continues. They couldn't find a technological solution to prevent you from watching a stream of a girl eating a banana, so they just turned it off.
Because God knows what that's going to lead to.
It's funny. It's because that's the thing that actually happened.
Now, that one, what was the name of the Tencent's one? It's not the big one. Penguin Esports. Yeah, so they actually have, they compare this to Twitch. This is not in comparison to Twitch. This is like comparison to YouTube gaming.
Yeah.
So, not that big a deal.
The Penguin gaming is to Twitch as YouTube gaming is to Twitch. Yes.
I don't think there's a competitor for Twitch yet. Not really.
No, it's just the inertia.
Yeah.
It's all the inertia.
Well, they got that Amazon money behind them, too.
Even before the Amazon money, who would have taken them on?
You know who's the dark horse that's going to have a streaming platform that's just going to surprise us all? Disney. I was the Called Penguin story, spoiler alert, that we'll get to. Like, if you go down that rabbit hole and the moves that Disney has been making quietly, it's dark. It's really dark.
They want to own every piece of media and tell every story.
Yeah, they're coming. They're coming for...
There will be no stories outside of the Disney culture.
Disney knows they're not going to pry Twitch from Amazon, but they're coming.
But you guys are criticizing Disney, and I don't know, maybe you guys don't know this, but they're the defender of LGBTQ. That makes them immune to your criticism. They were very clear about that with their press releases.
There's an asterisk, though, where it's like defender of LGBT, but only in the United States, not in China or any other market where it might cost them money.
Also, they really needed to support some politicians in Florida that may have not have been aligned with that policy.
Oh, they went against him.
Did they?
Eventually. After giving him
the
a
air
lot of
did,
money.
yeah.
Was like, shame on you. Don't make us give you this station wagon of cash. Oh, a second station wagon of cash. You're a terrible person. Here, I have another station wagon of cash.
I didn't realize there was still an heir to the Disney, like an actual, like, person.
Yeah, they don't run things, but
yeah,
I'm sure
they
have,
exist. Yeah,
I'm sure they have a lot of Class A shares
yeah.
that they get to vote with. Well, we thought that maybe, just maybe, very slowly, we were starting to crawl out of the pit of the chip supply problem, but not so fast.
iPhone supplier Pegatron suspends production at 2 factories in China. This is not because of the global economic situation. This is because of the global human malware situation.
You guys watch that video of the
Yes.
screams?
Oh
from the
my
buildings?
gosh, yeah.
Oh,
Very
that's
depressing.
haunting.
Also, the drone that was flying around saying, control your soul's desire for freedom.
Yeah.
Well, that's just... I know we say it all the time, but what could be more dystopian than that?
It's not. Someone posted on boring dystopia, and I was like, that's not even boring anymore, is it?
Oh,
That's just
yeah.
straight out of like Blade Runner.
This is white hot dystopia.
Yeah.
Fresh. And the old sanction question, if you're wondering like, I bet I could make a lot of money in Russia, but will anybody take it seriously if I go over there? Yes. Yes, they will take it very
Spoiler.
seriously.
Ethereum dev imprisoned for helping North Korea evade sanctions. So there's an Ethereum dev, and he had a conference. He did not get permission from the State Department to go to North Korea.
Which is ridiculous that you have to have that.
That's a bit of a faux pas. But then saying, here's how you evade U.S. sanctions, turns out the State Department has a problem with that. Listen, the State Department will call you if you get ransomware and the ransomware group is operating out of Iran and you send them money through Coinbase, the State Department will call you and be like, what did you do?
Yes, that's right. You literally have to have a license to visit North Korea. And you know what else you have to have a license for? Having opinions on the Australian stock market.
Finfluencers, quote unquote, could face up to 5 years in prison if they provide financial advice without a license, the Australian government says. Interesting. Does Australia not have a student loan crisis? Were those students consulted on the lifetime financial commitment they were making when they took out their student loans?
What if I said, people of Australia, in 2022, student loans are a scam. Don't take them. That's financial advice. Hey,
Do you have a license to give that?
I don't. I'm freewheeling here. I'm off the grid. Hey, listen, don't invest in the stock market if you owe a mortgage. The percentage on your credit card bills and your mortgage are probably more than you'll make on the stock market unless you're really good. Just pay your debt. Oh, no, financial advice.
Also, I saw the term Finfluencer earlier this week, and I assumed it meant influencers from Finland, but tragically it only means financial influencer.
What if it was influencers with genetic defects that caused them to have webbed feet?
Oh. That would also be weirdly specific. You probably have to have a license for both.
Or like
You have an unlicensed genetic anomaly.
mer people.
Gattaca every day.
I'm trying to think of mer people from fiction. They could be influencers.
Ariel.
It is a war on Aquaman.
Ariel, yeah.
Yeah.
Did Ariel end up with fins or feet at the end? I don't remember.
She had feet. She changed everything about herself to be with Prince Eric.
God, that was a terrible story, wasn't
It
it?
is, yeah, when you kind of take it apart a little bit.
So she can't be a influencer.
No, not anymore.
Well, it's in this country, we have inflation. And they print this official inflation number. And what are we at? Like 6, 7 now?
8.
It's so-
8.5, I think.
It's so extreme that we sound like we're on helium.
Well, that 8, I mean, under 10 is actually not nearly as bad, but that's not real. That's not the reality. Oh, but wait. I can't tell you the real number, at least not in Turkey.
Turkey considers prison terms for anyone publishing unapproved economic data.
Do you know how much our government would love this?
A lot. They would love this a lot. I'm pretty sure they're going to do this anyway. Like, they'll find other things that you did that they don't like. See also, all the crap that the guys on Wall Street Bets have to go through. It's like, we go on CNN. Let me accidentally trick you into saying something that you're not allowed to say because we have similar rules about not saying certain financial things, especially when you're a stockholder. It's actually a trick to get you to say something that you can then be brought up on criminal charges for.
Or they could just use their hold on our entire structure of communication to delete what you say whenever you say something they don't agree with, which is a lot of that is going on. And man, as much as I hate to admit it, one man is standing against it, and for one of the very few times I agree with him.
In major reversal, Elon Musk is not joining Twitter's board. And you know why?
We've been screwed by Elon Musk every week with him changing his mind back and forth.
He's not joining the board because he's trying to buy it. Woo!
He made the offer very quickly. The offer was rejected. Oh, well, then we found out the board was definitely not, they were not welcoming.
They were not welcoming to the advance. But they haven't, as of the time that we're shooting this, they haven't exactly announced the strategy with which they'll use to reject it, because he is offering a price that's significantly beyond the stock price.
No, the Saudis have a 5% stake, so they have enough to veto it, and they did.
Nice. Although I think
the Saudis on Twitter.
I want to say that Vanguard that's we're not talking about the same thing, are we? The Vanguard Retirement Fund, they upped their stake in Twitter also to try to get a say in this.
You're talking about other activist investors
yeah.
who are the pro-censorship activist investors versus Musk, who's the anti-censorship activist.
Let's not forget.
I don't know that he's anti-censorship so much as like he doesn't want his stuff censored. Like I think he would happily censor stuff making fun of him.
Yeah, he would for sure. Well, it was funny that remember the kid who tweets his airplane? He just tweeted, "Oh no." So that'll be the first big test, right?
Yeah.
That one seems too obvious. Yeah. You think he would really shut that down? You think so?
He is so vindictive. There was a blogger that complained about I think it was the Cybertruck launch event was kind of chaotic, like getting them in and getting them seated and like how stuff was going. And there was a throwaway line that he tweeted or something that was like, man, this event is really disorganized. They should have done a little bit better job planning this. Dude Musk canceled that blogger's pre-order.
Wow. Look, not only did he like take the time to figure out who that guy was, he went through and found his order.
Yeah.
I love when sycophants see the real face. I love that moment. I'm like,
that definitely happened.
But I'm with you. I'm one of you.
I was just saying, I thought the event could have gone better. Deleted.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say he's fully anti-censorship. He just doesn't want certain types of censorship against himself.
He fired the guy that posted the video to YouTube. We have the story about the $15 million settlement for the guy that endured racist slurs that we talked about a couple of years ago.
Oh, the short sellers. His campaign against the short sellers has been astonishing. And he's used the state in a lot of those cases.
Yeah, but there's been rapid fire stories about him all week with this Twitter drama.
He doesn't forget.
Well, we've got a few more, Krista.
Yeah.
Because, of course, everybody is trying to get his opinion about all this. What are you trying to do? Is this really about free speech?
Buying Twitter is not a way to make money, says Musk in TED interview. But he's created a situation where even if he doesn't acquire controlling interest in Twitter, his stocks are going to go up dramatically in value.
Would you call Elon a Finfluencer?
He is.
He needs a license in Australia.
The number one fan. I don't know. Maybe Buffett is more than him. Although, does Buffett tweet?
No.
Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
He's old. I guess so is Elon. Elon's in his 50s, right?
Well, there's a big gap between them. Buffett's basically a corpse.
Buffett's like 200 at this point.
So the problem that Twitter faces at this point is that they are a publicly traded company, which means anybody can buy their shares. And as we know, Elon Musk has a lot of money, enough to just keep buying shares and keep getting more and more votes. So what do you do?
Twitter's board is reportedly considering a poison pill, quote-unquote, defense to prevent Elon Musk from buying the company. What this is, if you're not familiar, is you issue more shares. Or you issue more shares and then create a situation where the board votes on who's eligible to buy those, maybe even at a discount.
In other words, you blowtorch your existing shareholders to try and maintain your control of speech.
Woo!
Do you want to own that stock?
No.
There is another possibility that there's such a thing when you own those shares. You can proxy your vote. So everybody could buy one share of Twitter and proxy Elon Musk if they wanted to. He'd run it.
You think that he's maneuvering to do that to get Reddit, get the Wall Street bets guys to just everybody will buy one share of Twitter.
I could totally see him doing that.
Yeah. Which how is the Trade Commission not been all over his ass for this?
Well, they hate him. That's
yeah,
like one of the most bitter.
But it seems like he's kind of a little manipulating the price with all of his nonsense with this. And
they would have to go back and put everybody in jail.
Yeah,
because this is such a common thing.
How has it not occurred to him to buy a Robinhood or to buy or build a Robinhood competitor? Because that would be the ultimate way to screw the SEC.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
it kills two birds from one stone because he gets the internal data and he's able to expose the corruption that way, and he keeps them busy with that, so they'll leave him alone.
But you got to have a clearinghouse, and you got to have all this infrastructure, and every portion of that could just say no to him, and that would end it.
I'm pretty sure that the money that he's pissed away, though, could make a lot of those barriers go away.
Maybe. But also, I don't think he cares as much about that as he does about this.
Yeah, about trying to... It's not about the money, it's about the influence. That's what he wants. The Finfluence.
Now, someone else who is in a similar situation to Mr. Musk, but maybe it is about the money for this man.
Yeah.
Because it seems like every decision he makes is all about the money, and he has gambled big on the latest one.
Mark Zuckerberg's augmented reality. Meta is facing its first AR glasses release in 2024, but sources believe it'll take a lot longer for them to become mainstream. So, if you didn't see the video of this, it was around Christmas time, wasn't it? He was doing fencing, but it was like augmented reality fencing, but it's not. It's like, this is obviously just Hollywood nonsense, but they're trying to say this is how it's really going to be, but there's no way that this is how it's really going to be.
Oh, that's so dark.
A first-gen product.
This image. It's like I think what makes that sort of weird looking is that it's two old men, so it sort of implies that one has died.
Recently?
It's literally the force projection ghost. You're playing chess with the force projection ghost of your grandpa.
Now, they were interviewing some, I think a former Microsoft guy who has dealt with building these kinds of glasses before. His quote was, "Not encouraging."
You have to be really a missionary to see this through. Someone who's been involved with Nazar says it will take decades.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Because if you look at our current... Remember the AR demo we saw where they was throwing rocks?
Yeah.
Compared to this?
Yeah.
I mean, that looked like CGA graphics, those rocks. Yeah. It was terrible. And the Metaverse... Now, here's the weird thing about the Metaverse... Accidental preview. The weird thing about the Metaverse is that Meta has the Metaverse, but then the word Metaverse also just talks about like the category of thing. Yep. So other people are building their Metaverses. That's going to be a rat's nest, isn't it?
Yep.
But the real Metaverse, I don't know if we call it the real one, the first one, the Metaverse, has...
Sucks Meta.
They've made an announcement about their pricing policy.
Meta plans to take nearly 50% of creators' earnings in Horizon Worlds.
And it's dead.
So it's 30% commission for the platform and the software. Think like the Metaverse App Store. And then 17.5% hardware fee?
I think it's the other way around, right?
No, I think it's
like... I should say.
30%... for selling the apps through the VR platform, and 25%
on top of the remaining amount.
But one of them, you got it right. One of them's for Meta, and one of them's for Horizon Worlds. Is that how you understood it?
I thought it was like if you're using the Meta hardware for the thing, which you have to use.
In any case, it's 50%.
Yeah.
It's essentially 50%. And
this again seems to me like, you buy your Microsoft IntelliMouse Explorer, and anything that you use. Anything that you create with that mouse is now property of Microsoft, a certain percentage.
Did you just transfer some money on your bank account?
Using your Microsoft IntelliMouse, and it's like, yes.
Now, Krista, you say this is dead, but they point out that Roblox has almost the exact same policies.
That's also for literal children.
Oh, well.
I guess, yeah, maybe they're hoping to get... And I guess they are kind of angling to get younger people because Instagram... is where most of their young people are, but even that's not as popular as like TikTok anymore.
It's children that are literally being programmed by trillion-dollar companies to be okay with this.
We have a story about that later.
Yeah, you definitely want kids. I mean, Facebook's got old people now. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get kids in early and make it so immersive that they don't want to be in reality. That's dark.
But their product sucks.
The really dark future of Facebook is probably old people getting, extra money for their medicine, doing content moderation.
Or they're watching their grandkids in the metaverse.
Nana went her whole life without ever smoking a cigarette or uttering a curse word, and now she watches people murder animals on Facebook so that she can get her blood pressure medicine.
It's our dark future. It's coming.
Well, one thing about charging 50% commission in Mr. Zuckerberg's world is that very recently he handed out some criticism for something very, very similar. And those people, unsurprisingly, are pointing out that hypocrisy.
Apple's responded to Meta's plan to take a nearly 50% commission for digital asset purchases made inside the metaverse after complaining about fees from the App Store, causing the decision hypocritical. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Tim Cook in the back of his mind is also thinking, wow, we should have charged extra if you use an iPhone.
I knew we should have done 45. But I mean, Tim Cook, when he sees it, he doesn't say to himself, oh, that's bad, I should stop. He says to himself, yeah, we should all be doing that.
Yeah.
More of this.
How much will the people handle? Could we go 60, 70, 80%?
You got to think 50 is pushing it, right?
I would think, but
I don't know, though, because if it blows up, like, remember when the app stores, the early Wild West days of the app stores, where people would just put up Flappy Bird and become millionaires overnight?
Yeah.
Those people will pay 50%. Because it's 50% of a massive, massive number. Dark times. Maybe we'll all get lucky, and it won't be the metaverse that wins. Maybe it'll be like Blu-ray and HD DVD. Maybe Sony Metaverse, which we don't know the name of yet, will win instead.
Epic Games lands $2 billion as Sony bets on its metaverse. So Sony is saying, hey, Epic Games, we're going to use your stuff for ours.
You know who else is part of this deal that wasn't in Crunchbase News, the paywall alternative? And this is a big one. I don't understand how they have not already made a massive MMO platform. Lego is going to be a part of this.
oh.
I think I've heard rumors they've been working on that for years, turning their popular Lego games into multiplayer MMO, or at the very minimum multiplayer in some way.
Imagine, and it could be low poly, right? It could be Minecraft style.
Well, they were doing some stuff with Nintendo, I heard, and they got off to false starts because Nintendo was saying you can't control the content, and they're trying to figure out the multiplayer model using things like Animal Crossing to try to have that kind of thing for the Lego world.
See, I think they're trying too hard. I think you just turn people loose in that sandbox and see what happens.
Then you end up with very dark things.
Remember,
Or
Lego,
you end up with, like our Minecraft server, which turned out pretty wholesome
Yeah,
overall. But that's also not, it's probably not a representation of the entire population.
it's a fringe group, and it's a fringe group that probably pushes out the normies
Yeah.
when they're part of it. But remember, I think Lego did do some kind of online thing, and yet it was the people kept building genitalia,
Yeah.
and they couldn't stop it. No matter how hard they tried, people would get around the algorithm. So maybe just let them have it. And the metaverse, of all, like, we don't know a lot of features that it has, right? You can meet with people with an avatar. You can maybe play a game or two. But other than that, you can own property, I guess.
It sounds like just VR chat with extra steps.
We kind of predicted this one.
Yeah, and so they're trying to think of new ways to add value. It's like, what can we offer people to make them join the metaverse? And this is, a horrific one.
Metaverse company to offer immortality through quote-unquote live forever mode. So basically, you feed an AI all of your stuff, all of your emails and all of your documents and everything you've ever written or said or posted or done anything online, and it creates an approximation of you that will live forever in the metaverse.
But you got to think, well, how is it going to do that? Well, the way it's going to do that, and listen, Facebook would never try to make money off of this.
Mm-hmm.
They're only going to store it for the purposes of your memorial. They're going to record every word you say, every move you make, everything you do while you're in the metaverse, and create some sort of horrific profile on you. and they say they have to do as much as possible to make it as accurate as possible after you're dead.
You can do the premium service, and they'll come scan your brain in after you die.
You know,
in hopes that future technology can reanimate that.
Yeah. Who was the one guy that had his head frozen? How's that working out for him?
It's not working out great.
Yeah.
No. But I think we actually probably do have the technology now to scan in your brain at just an obscene resolution. We can't reconstruct it or do anything with it yet, but if we can make a really, really good copy of your brain down to the molecular level, we might be able to reanimate that in the future.
Wouldn't you have to, like, pull it all apart?
Oh, yeah.
I think you might lose something there. You know what's going to happen when you live forever in the metaverse? You're going to be dead, and you're going to be living forever in the metaverse, and there's going to be somebody who hated you or loved you, and they're going to show up every week and grope you.
Ugh.
Remember the groping problem?
Yeah.
Oh, it appears his virtual dead avatar thing left the 3 feet of personal space toggle turned on. We can't get any closer.
Or what if, like, you're talking to it, and then all of a sudden it just leans forward and it's like, kill me.
Yeah.
Let me die.
Well, Krista, you're a big fan of the Facebook Marketplace.
Yes.
You've been looking for tables.
Yes. I found a decent one that
Now-
we might put an offer in on.
Well, that's good. We do need a table, but have you found any good leads on marmosets?
No, there's not actually a lot of animals, at least in our neck of the woods. I don't see animals on there very
Yeah,
often.
because how hard is it to get a dog or a cat around here?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
walk outside, you're going to trip over one. Take it home, shampoo it, it's yours.
And if you list any other animal, the first question is, how does it taste?
Oh.
But an African gray parrot, you might get some money out of that.
Wildlife trafficking thrives on Facebook despite pledge to fight illegal trade.
Again, the algorithm is real excited about these posts, and it's like, ooh, we shouldn't do anything to curtail these kinds of things.
What ugly animals.
Yeah.
Is that green color? Because I know some animals have moss that grows in their hair. Which
Yeah, it
sounds
might be like
horrific.
algae or something if they're wet a lot.
Why would you want that?
I mean, they're cute, but I wouldn't want it in my house.
I remember I watched a video about the guy who had a tiger and a puma in a basement in Ukraine. I don't know what
yeah.
happened to him.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard any updates about whether he made it out or not.
I think he was in the south, so something had to happen.
The 45th Division, they've racked up a lot of kills now, and they have a taste for blood. They're going to have to be put down after the war, but it's going to make the most incredible, series.
Can you imagine if they turned those into like battle cats? That'd be fantastic. That'd probably just get killed almost immediately, right? Probably get
Yeah.
killed by artillery. Well, social media, this is the social media section, in case you didn't notice. But so far, we've only talked about old social medias, the dinosaurs of social media. They're on their way out. There's a new king.
TikTok revenue set to surpass Twitter, Snap revenue combined. So,
Do people still use Snapchat?
yeah.
I guess, yeah.
TikTok is very addictive.
Have you been on it?
Very disorganized.
I won't download it.
I've never used TikTok, but when we posted our first YouTube short, I clicked on it, and it took me to that feed page.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't just view them individually. And I started scrolling, and about 5 minutes later, I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's the TikTok model. Yeah. YouTube's mimicking the TikTok model because it does keep you on there.
But presumably TikTok's even better at it, right?
Yeah.
Like their algorithm is even more addictive than...
Yeah, YouTube's algorithm's garbage. Source, trust me, bro.
So, yeah, that's one of those things where I don't want to be a part of it because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I know that my mind cannot fight it the way that I think it can. So you just have
You
to...
just can't click that tab. You just can't do it.
That's how I feel about opiates too, which is why I'm in pain right now. And Twitter, this was April 7th. You gotta wonder if some of this wasn't an emergency meeting and they're like, okay, what can we offer to sort of, back away from the censorship? What can we give people that might cool this off a little bit? I don't think it'll work.
Twitter says that it is experimenting with quote-unquote unmentioning. You'll be able to remove yourself from a tweet thread that went off the rails. This actually is a thing that happens where somebody will ask something confusing and inflammatory and tag a bunch of people, and then somebody starts engaging with the troll, and then it's like, why do I have 300 notices?
Yes.
But
Well, they'll tag like every tech tuber in a post about something.
I'll just be like, don't worry about that.
Yeah, just don't even.
that's the
don't
thing.
answer.
If they add the edit button, though, that's going to get a million times worse because somebody's going to tweet something and then they're going to change it, and then the whole thread is going to
It'd be
be
confusing.
off the rails.
But
Well-
if you can just unmention yourself, then it doesn't bother you. Like, it can go off the rails somewhere else for all I care.
What if I only look at Twitter like once a week?
Well, then obviously you're not using it the way it was intended to be used.
Clearly.
If you only use it once a week, it's deliberately awful so that you'll use it more.
Yeah, that is an astonishing user interface. It's terrible. Well, maybe if you hate Twitter and you're hearing about all these things and you say, I got to move to something else, go to WhatsApp. Although I guess WhatsApp is not a direct Twitter. It's more of a messenger, right?
Yeah.
I guess this would replace Facebook. But doesn't Facebook own WhatsApp?
I forget what all they own.
Well, whatever it is, they're adding new features.
WhatsApp to launch communities, more structured group chats with admin controls. This actually probably is something that should have been done a long time ago.
Oh, it is. It's meta. It's meta, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think this is the biggest thing here. This is if you are the admin, you can have a huge voice chat that you control with this menu. I think in some ways they were trying to remember Clubhouse.
Yeah.
I think this was their Clubhouse, but now it's to the point where Clubhouse doesn't matter anymore because no one cared.
It is nice to have a record of like the posts and stuff that happened, and then the voice chat part can be a little bit more ephemeral. So whatever.
And Krista, we have had this conversation several times. Now you say, well, I think your age was like 16 to give your kid a phone, right?
Ideally.
We should say that you don't have a kid.
I don't have a kid. And they always say that the best parents are the people without children. So so I'm sure that might change in the future.
Yeah,
but
the people who looked around and were like, I'm going to subject somebody to this? I don't think so.
Things don't look great right now.
Yeah. And they didn't 20 years ago either. There's no excuse. But a lot of people agree with you. I cannot imagine how you would prevent that from happening. But I have heard from people say, no, my kid has no. But, they got to be seeing it somewhere, right?
My nieces and nephews don't have regular access to any sort of, like, they don't have social media at all.
Well, when you said that, I said that's insane. Because the average age has to be insanely low. It has to be ridiculously low. Because people are not, imagine how much your kid is going to scream to be like the other kids. Eventually you're going to give into it. I was not prepared for how low the number is.
Kids on social media, this is just like an academic paper where they talk about the percentages based on platform for each age group that they tracked.
3-year-olds, 25% of 3-year-olds.
On TikTok.
You can't read at 3, right?
It depends on the kid. If you're just being raised by TikTok, probably not. If you're being raised by a parent who's maybe working, you might be able to recognize some letters and stuff at that age and start knowing what sounds they make.
8 to 11, 34%. You start to be able to read around 5 or 6 probably.
Yeah.
13, it hits 80.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're done. 8 to 11 more likely to have TikTok and YouTube. Yeah, it all checks out with everything we know. We know where they are. But God,
that's so young.
3 years old.
I would be terrified to put a child that young on something like TikTok just because, like, you just don't know what's going to pop up in that feed. Who knows?
Imagine how crazy it's going to be when we can observe how a kid's TikTok feed changed between 3 and 13.
Oh, you know that they're selling that data.
Yeah. There's going to be some crazy data mining coming out of all that.
I'm trying to remember the first time that I dialed into a BBS. I think it was 4th grade. Maybe the summer between 3rd and 4th grade.
I didn't really start getting on the internet until I was like 5th or 6th grade.
There must not have been.
We didn't have a computer.
What was there, 1 at that point?
No, it was so it was connected to the public library. And so there was that one. But then the people at the public library, there was also the Kansas City Public Library, which had an 800 number. And so it was like, oh, this is magical.
The Kansas City Public Library, if you guys don't know about this, it was a BBS that had a gateway to the internet. And the average dials that you needed to get into that was probably like, what, 200?
It wasn't in 3rd grade, but it was very quickly a lot.
Yeah, I didn't get into it that early. I was probably like 12 by the time I did it. And literally, you would turn it on and go to sleep, and you would sleep through the... And when you heard that, your head would pop off the pillow and be like, oh, is it going to connect? And sometimes it wouldn't. That would be a real disappointment.
Yeah.
But we turned out fine. Maybe not.
I was definitely exposed to a lot of things before I was really ready for it, but it's probably okay.
Yeah. See, I think that's the way we should raise kids.
Yeah.
Let them know whatever it is. And you don't have to tell them the gory details. But hiding
That's
it
the
from
problem, though, is like on the internet, you're going to know the gory details. You're going to see it in, 4K.
But you're crazy if you think you can stop it by not buying them a phone.
Yeah. I mean, they might still be exposed to it, probably a lot less than if they're constantly scrolling 8 hours a day.
Yeah. It definitely helped my ability to read, which has only gone downhill since. So.
Yeah.
Your attention was stolen from you.
Learning to read at a very, very young age is like number one parenting tip.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. It's like, oh, they can't possibly read that. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then we look at where we've come. Have you looked at the numbers out of Chicago?
I don't like the new math. The new math is wrong.
They have I don't remember the percentage, but like their high school graduates, some of them can't read. Like more than 10%.
It's crazy that they just pass people who can't read. Like just, it's fine.
What would you do if they were literally like shooting and dealing drugs in the classroom?
There wasn't any. I mean, you can't.
But there has to be an age where that wasn't happening, and it's like, it's at the elementary level when they're not passing their reading tests, and it's like, it's someone else's problem. Just get them through.
No, that's not true because those kids can't get arrested, so they're used a lot in the drug game because there's no risk to them, really.
Well, there's risks to them, but I guess,
their lives are being destroyed.
Yeah.
But they can continue to sell the drugs.
And that's what matters.
And not worry about the fact they can't read.
That's sad.
They might not be able to read, but they're hell on addition and subtraction. Amazing.
All right. We will see you guys soon.
Tomorrow.
Bye. Bye. Oh, I hit the mic. Sorry. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level 1 News. Today we're doing business and security news.
You didn't say what day it was, Krista. It's a special day.
It's April... Oh, it's 420.
See, I didn't tell you the date ahead of time because I wanted you to stumble into it, and you just skipped it.
I did. I just skipped right over it. It's 420.
I'm having a Diet Orange Crush to celebrate for my private reserve.
Let me say this, sort of 420 related. I was trying to look up how to infuse honey with flowers, and if you look up infused honey, it's all people infusing it with marijuana. Literally, like that's all it is.
What happens if you infuse it with other kinds of flowers?
It just gets like a nice floral note.
Is there ever a time when you can spit fireballs after you do that?
No.
I've heard of that.
No.
Oh, wow. Well, let's talk about some business, and first we'll talk about the hardware. Apple is doing quite well. Now, Apple is never number one because they're hideously overpriced, but they are getting way up there. Could it be because of their magical chips?
Mac sales fly as PC declines. Did the M1 chip save Apple? The battery lasts longer and they do more over a shorter amount of time. Everybody likes the M1.
Return of the Mac. Get it? That's a song. So we got the chart here. Apple, number 4. They assume that Dell and Lenovo did the best because they have most of the gaming laptops. And those are hot right now.
Imagine being so bad at operating system design that people are willing to pay for the M1, which is insanely overpriced. Because the operating system on your laptop is so bad.
Do you think iOS is better?
Windows 11 is much worse, and OS, not iOS, but Mac OS is.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yep.
Is better in a lot of ways. The user interface, I don't like the user interface. It tastes funny, but architecturally, it's better.
It tastes funny.
I don't use Windows 11 a lot, so I haven't learned that much about it yet, but I do hate most of what I know about it. And who has the fastest CPU in gaming?
Mirror on the wall.
AMD Ryzen 7 5800X 3D review. 3D V-Cache powers a new gaming champion. I like how AMD didn't have to invent a new socket or anything. They're just like, let's put more cache on this thing.
So the 12900 was the king for a little bit, but now this Ryzen 7 is blowing it out of the water, and the price point and the power point, big differences.
Yeah. It's funny, though, because the 12900 and the 12900 KS, like productivity, it's still an amazing, great chip. This is only an 8-core, but it's an 8-core, quote-unquote, for gaming. And it's only faster for gaming. It's not faster for productivity or anything else. In fact, it's a little, like for productivity, the 5800X 3D is slightly slower than the 5800X. But games love the giant cache on the CPU, so it's really interesting if you're a gamer.
I got to think that most people who are building productivity PCs are not shopping at that range of CPU anyway.
I only need 3 cores for my spreadsheets. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that, and we're talking about like maybe video editing and like or maybe AI stuff like that, and yeah, maybe, but still, I don't think that you shop from the top bin when you're building that machine.
It is nice to game on a nice, fast 8-core machine,
especially when it's half price. Well, we all know that inflation is biting hard, and the shipping game, especially from Amazon, is falling apart. They just don't have the infrastructure. Their logistical systems, they were great at once, but now they've fallen. So what do you do?
Amazon slaps U.S. sellers with a 5% fuel and inflation surcharge, and they have said this is subject to change. So imagine more is coming. Now,
pray we don't alter the deal further.
Now, this article uses a lot of words to basically say that it thinks that the Amazon delivery drivers are getting screwed because they don't even get the federal rate, like the federal tax deduction rate for mileage. It points out that the IRS will let you deduct a certain amount for mileage, which everybody widely regards as what you should charge for mileage, and the people that drive for it don't get that in mileage.
Well, but the sellers are carrying this cost.
Yeah. So it's like, what?
Which means prices are going up again for your cheap Amazon goods.
When Mitt Romney said it was $20 for a gallon of milk, he was actually looking at one of his lizard person projection reports. That's what he was remembering.
It's I think Walmart milk is like $5 a gallon right now.
Yeah, it's getting crazy.
Yeah.
Well, those Amazon drivers, they do have a tough time of it, and their lives probably suck, no doubt about it. Although, hey, spring's got to be better than the other seasons, right? But they might not be the worst job at Amazon. That might still fall on the warehouse peon.
Amazon workers made up almost half of all warehouse injuries last year. Half.
Now, they are the #1 employer in America, aren't they?
But it's still twice the industry rate.
Right.
So if you run a warehouse, you are twice as likely to be hurt at an Amazon warehouse as any other warehouse, according to this article, if I'm interpreting that correctly.
And if you look at this chart, obviously the only thing that Amazon is saying about this is look how much better it's getting. Although those years where it's getting better weren't normal years. So I don't know.
I don't know if they're better or worse, though, because there are a lot of Main Street businesses that are gone and are never coming back, and Amazon has absolutely taken over that whole... Their shipments are up, the number of products they're handling is up, everything is up.
Yeah, because those people are now going through Fulfilled by Amazon. And they're paying 5% more for everything. And
they somehow managed to get their injury rate down. I mean...
Well, but see, here's the trickery in this chart. The red portion or the orange portion, Krista, what color is that?
I would call that a coral.
Oh, okay. The coral portion. It dropped by almost half. Yeah, because that's lost time. And what we learn is that Amazon instituted a policy that if you get injured, you don't stop coming to work. You just do a job where you don't have to move around.
Generous of them.
So, in your case, you'd be strapped to the wheel robot so that you don't have to use your legs, but the
you
robot
could use your arms.
I could still pick, yeah. That'd be perfect. Just put me on a forklift. But then you'd have to have a forklift driver.
No, it's the robotic forklift. You're on one of the things. You're literally strapped in, and the robot drives you somewhere, and only gives you so long.
And you know the robot's going to be maximum efficiency, so it's only going to stop like 2 centimeters away from the packing crates every time.
Oh, thanks.
Robot, I can't breathe.
Amazon workers are listening to that, and they're like, is that abnormal?
I didn't know you guys worked at Amazon.
And how do you get... I mean, one thing about the Amazon job, eventually that's going to chew you up, right? How many injuries can you get through before you're just wrecked at the end of it? So what do you do if you need a never-ending supply of human meat robots?
Amazon targets high schoolers in a warehouse recruiting blitz. This is going to be amazing because there's going to be a lot of really desperate high schoolers that get a job for this and they just go straight into this and they never leave.
You know who's sweating on this? The United States military. They're like, those are our kids.
Are these part-time jobs, though?
This is for after you graduate, so they're probably looking for full-time. Yeah.
Okay.
They're not they don't want to hire you while you're in high school. That's mostly illegal, I think.
No, you can get hired 15 at some places, here in Kentucky anyway.
And summertime work as well.
Yeah. I got my first job when I was 16, I think.
That you know what? If your freshman year, you're 15 when you're a freshman, right?
Like 14.
So let's say that summer you'd be 15. If you spent the first summer of high school working at the Amazon warehouse, I bet you become way more studious. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, this ain't for me. I don't want this.
Or if you're in a desperate home situation, you just keep doing it. Like you get the job, and it's like, well, I can just keep doing this, and a lot of problems go away.
Well, but except for your back problems.
Well, you won't have that until you're 20.
You got 4 or 5 good years in you. And we learned last week that New York went with the union, the Amazon union. The other state didn't, right? Was it Alabama?
Right.
Alabama turned it down. But New York is now saying, now that we got our foot in the door, we believe that this will be like an ice crystal. It's just going to keep spreading. You can't stop it. And Amazon is saying, we will do everything that we possibly can to stop it. Also, notice this is from the Washington Post.
Amazon filing out plans to fight the New York union vote.
It's all some
Democracy
nasty.
dies in darkness. Isn't that right, Washington Post?
One of the things they complained about was not a lot of people voted, but also not a lot of people voted in Alabama, and they're not contesting it there.
They're also saying that all sorts of, like, the ballot wasn't clear. The people were spoken to before they went in to vote, which is illegal. They've got all these little, small things that they think added up to it. So there's going to be a huge appeals process.
But not in Alabama. That was totally different.
But they're saying that they have plans to go back to, like all these places and strengthen them as well, because they can't have this. Never again, is what Amazon is saying. And I've been seeing several stories. I didn't add them all. Figured we'd roll them all up here where, some people are saying, hey, we really don't ever want to go back to the office. And some people are saying that, no, you have to. And we're going to make your life miserable if you don't. It seems like Google might be in the second one based on their investing.
Google to invest $9.5 billion this year in U.S. offices and data centers. So $9.5 billion doesn't really go a long way for data centers, but for like U.S. office return to cubicle, yeah, that's maybe not a good sign.
But they are going to have several new data centers. I mean, if you're Google, you have to keep expanding every year, right?
Yeah.
What choice do you have?
Nevada, Nebraska, and Virginia.
And there's going to be a whole bunch of jobs coming to those places if you're into that kind of thing. They did not spend nearly this amount last year, so they're really stepping it up. Of course, last year was one of those years, wasn't it?
They did say they're going to work on affordable housing in the Bay Area, which is...
We've heard that before, haven't we?
Yeah. It's just going to be a company town.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that the Bay Area is already... There's so much commercial real estate that's been abandoned in the Bay Area that can be converted into housing. It would probably have a housing surplus within a few years.
Yeah, but then you have to ask your executives to live in that area, and they don't want to.
Yeah.
Also, they probably have to fight the city for zoning because it's like, oh, it's only commercial. You can't have mixed use.
I mean, there's several people in our social circles that, that used to live in California that now that they've gotten a taste of work from home, they're like, I'm not going back to California.
Too expensive.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's got beautiful weather, but...
Yeah, everybody moved to the south.
Yeah.
I think it was mostly Texas and, like, the coasts is what I saw.
A few of them moved to eastern Washington as well.
Yeah,
That's been a problem for years. My family complains about that a lot.
I think some of those people were, they looked at Florida, and they said, I'm not quite Florida. Maybe Georgia. I'm definitely not California, but I'm not quite Florida. Maybe Georgia. Maybe North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah. North Carolina got a lot of... There's a lot of tech industry in North Carolina as a result of all of this, which is actually good if you're in North Carolina.
Now, this story is interesting. We love to report... I love to report on Tesla's going bad and doing things that they shouldn't.
Going rogue.
This one's weird, though, because this guy kept driving it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well... if it was as serious as you described, why didn't you keep driving? Did the brakes work? And he was like, well, yeah, the brakes worked. I figured that out later. You didn't check? You didn't check right away?
SoCal man says his car computer on his new Tesla froze, causing the vehicle to be stuck at 83 miles an hour on the freeway. He said that the version that I heard or listened to, it made it sound like he was just keeping up with traffic, and he eventually did stop and pull over to the side of the road. And then his car rebooted, and it was fine, but he had it towed anyway.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Screw that.
I accidentally previewed another story.
Ooh.
I'm out of practice with the keypad.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm all thumbs over here.
Can't concentrate because of the mind-searing pain.
So, yeah. That is weird, though, and he lost all the other buttons on the car. The brakes still worked, but everything else was still dead until he restarted it, which,
Or it restarted itself.
That is
something like that.
That's disturbing.
Can you imagine getting like the blue screen on a Tesla? It's the smiley face. We're restarting. And you're going 83 miles down the freeway.
It's just one of those things that, yeah, I understand that it's a computer, but this needs to be a computer where this can never happen. Remember the ones that wouldn't turn the heat on in the winter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's so important. So important. And the big complaint about Teslas overall is their quality control and their value over time. Seems like if you own one long enough, little things start to pop up they've ranged from annoying to catastrophic.
Over 10% of Tesla Model S EVs failed Germany's strict inspection after 3 years. I love this. I love this because, the stereotypical German thing is like everything is to such quality and to such standards and blah, blah, blah. And vehicles on the road, if you're going to be on the Autobahn and not have a speed limit, you need some good vehicles in your fleet. So they inspect your car every so often. There's no...
3 years. It's 3 years after purchase and every 2 years after that.
Yeah. So that's why we don't see 1970s beaters on the Autobahn. And the mechanics are saying, well, these are not up to snuff.
I've not heard of the Renault I've heard of, but Dacia, I'm going to have heard of Dacia.
Yeah, yeah.
But those are like Daewoo, right? Like
It's the low end.
The garbage tier.
Yeah.
So the next worst was Dacia with lower than 10%.
Wasn't that a car in PUBG? Am I imagining that?
Maybe.
That sounds familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Tesla is worse than like the garbage tier
The cheap car.
Euro brand.
The car that they put in PUBG.
It's funny because you mentioned Germany having those strict controls. I just watched the TV show Dope Sick, which I really enjoyed. And it's all about the Purdue Pharma. They couldn't get OxyContin into Germany.
Good job, Germany. Nicely done. That's excellent.
So, yeah, I guess all that strict regulation can work if it's not corrupted like ours is. Because they did get OxyContin here. They got it in a big way. Oh, the streaming wars. They rage on, and it seems like every week we have a new entry into the streaming wars. Some of them never get started.
CNN Plus struggles to lure viewers in its early days, drawing fewer than 10,000 daily users.
Ooh.
Who wants to have bad news pumped into their eyeballs with a subscription service?
Once again,
Less than
people,
10,000.
Patreon.com/level1.
people have lost sight of building things that people actually want. Nobody wants this because it's terrible. Nobody wants to install an app because apps are awful. The experience on mobile has gotten progressively worse over the last 5 to 10 years.
Also, CNN tried something like this years ago. They bought that Beam thing from, what was his name? The YouTuber, Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
And it was also a streaming thing, and it also really didn't get off the ground.
They just don't understand what problem it is they're trying to solve.
They're not trying to solve a problem, they're just trying to make money.
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to make money. I think they're trying to control the narrative.
They're trying to get influence like Elon Musk with Twitter.
The CNN, though, is part of that whole Discovery merger, and they're about to get a new boss. So I imagine the new boss is not going to like their numbers.
Well, the more disturbing thing that's going to happen here is, like, suppose the CNN motives were completely above board and really amazing, and they wanted to return to, truly journalistic journalism. I know, it's
They don't have any of those.
far-fetched, totally insane. But assuming that was their motivation, it would not be successful because people don't realize that that's what they need. And so they do this and it fails. But what will save this is Jerry Springer style content and reality show content and like the worst of the worst.
Oh, the new boss has said he wants to go back to no opinion. Just straight news. I don't know. I mean, it might be lip service, but...
I mean, that would be good, but I don't think people will realize that will be good. And I think that will exacerbate
their financial problems, yeah.
Did you see
Doesn't sell.
They did a disinformation, like, they went around to college campuses and did, here's how you deal with disinformation. And a college kid confronted them with a very well stated argument with facts. Did you see that, Brian Stelter? You got to watch that. You got to watch the Stelter clip where the kid just destroys him, and he has no. His response is, "I think it's lunchtime." Literally. E-readers. I've just defaulted to reading on my Surface. I can't. It's
so
like
heavy.
It's like another kitchen appliance, all right?
Yeah.
I don't want another kitchen appliance. I would love to have an e-reader. I would love to have long battery life and comfortable reading and all that, but how do you convince me? And maybe those worlds are coming closer together.
E-Ink's new color electronic paper is fast enough to play videos. It doesn't play videos well. You can definitely see a lot of after images and stuff like that.
And the frame rate is super low.
But I really want to build an open source e-reader around this because that does look pretty good.
But in my mind, that seems to sort of blur the line between tablet and e-reader, though. Like, are you really getting on there to watch a video?
No.
But you don't sacrifice a lot of battery life with this. It's still very low power, still cheap.
Yeah.
So most of the advantages remain, but now you get color, and I mean, I don't know if you call that video. Slideshow? Fast slideshow?
Yeah. A GIF.
Yeah.
Also, I imagine that your e-reader's not going to have the kind of storage you're going to want for video.
Yeah.
But hey, it's a step in the right direction, right? Here, Krista, you know, I a lot of these stories, when I put them in, I sit there and I think to myself, Krista's going to hate this. That it just cracks me up because this is the kind of thing I assume that you just, you know, existentially.
This might make me buy a gun.
Oh, you could be like the Ukrainians. But this is hilarious when you read it and you wonder, are they really going to do this? And then you read on and you're like, oh, they planned for everything. They're doing this.
Yeah. Intel patent suggests drones may be used to create mobile billboards in the near future. And I will have a lot of free drones if they come anywhere near me.
Not just using them as a light source, but actually putting a projector on them and having them fly around buildings and then just
constantly bombard you with freaking ads.
Krista, I hate to tell you this because I love your spirit in this, but you are not you're not good enough at marksmanship.
Yeah, you're
take
not
a
wrong.
drone.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. I'm not saying I am. That's a very difficult thing to do. Now, you might be thinking, well, okay, does this... At first, I thought this was going to be like, you know how they do like Musk does the light shows or the drones? No, it's not that. It's literally a projector. Although, that projector battery life, what do you think it's going to be on a drone? It'll be low, right?
I mean, at night it would probably be fine, but during the day you're not going to outrun the sun.
Imagine how annoying this is going to be too if you live in an apartment, like how they've mocked it up here, and like you're trying to sleep and it's just blasting light into your window.
See, also everybody that lives in Times Square in New York.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. See, this is what terrifies me about it because they've already thought of all of that. So they thought of like, what about the material? Because what about broadcasting on brick or projecting onto brick versus a smooth marble or something like that? What about windows and getting it in between? As you can see here, they plan on different sizes, different intensities. They plan on adapting in real time to all those problems.
And because it's a projector, they can literally not project light on the windows and you won't notice.
So they can go portrait or landscape, whatever they got to do. They can do 2 images. Oh, it's horrific. 2 drones.
I wonder if we'll ever have any, like, if some cities will ever enact a rule where it's like no drones.
Well, they are still very noisy.
Yeah.
That could be a savior, right?
We need more dark sky to be able to observe the stars, and they're just trying everything they can to add more light pollution.
I've missorted this one. This should have gone with the
the
12900 story or the Intel investment story, but here we are. Now, we have heard things from Intel in the past about how they were going to be on time. And those might not have been true. So when they tell us they're going to be early, not just on time, but early, I don't know.
Intel says it's going to deliver its 2025 chip tech a half year early in 2024. That's going to be the 18A technology, which is new process node, new density, new stuff. It's really going to need that because competition.
Oh, I thought they had a timeline on here. I must have looked at a different article. But yeah, they got a bunch of new stuff, but that 18A is the one that they're really excited about. And are also getting 20A. That's the one that's going to be high performance. Do you think Intel will pull back the next fastest CPU, gaming CPU, or will AMD hold that for a while?
The next generations are going to be crazy because they did a pretty good job with Alder Lake with performance. The power, I was really maybe expecting power to be a little bit better, but Alder Lake is no slouch. Raptor Lake is coming, and Zen 4 is coming. So, I mean, it's anybody's game at this point.
Will electricity prices be high enough for people to start considering that?
No.
It might in Europe.
Yeah, I was surprised. There were some people that were saying that their electricity cost has gone, I want to say it was like 50 cents a kilowatt hour, which is bananas.
Yeah, you do not want to be playing a lot of 4K games at 50 cents per kilowatt hour.
We have a kind of a dysfunctional situation here in America. The northeastern part of the country, their natural gas prices, like what costs them $20 costs us $3. So a little bit of a problem.
Why is that?
They shut down all the wells
And the pipelines.
and we didn't in this area, but they did and so
In New England.
yeah,
That's green energy.
yeah.
That's what green energy does for you. Well, I just recently canceled my Spectrum cable because I moved over to fiber, which is great. And I knew that was going to be an awful phone call, and I timed it 17 minutes. And that was 17 minutes of the most abuse I could pile. Although I got to say, like, minute 10, we sort of like came to an understanding with each other.
Were you full Karen? Would you call yourself a Karen in that
No, I was
situation?
very calm, but I was just letting her have it. She was like, because she was trying to retain me,
Yeah.
and I was like, look, I understand what you're doing. I understand you have to do that. Just check the boxes. I'm not telling you this information. She kept asking me questions. I started making them like crazy stuff. Like, how many devices do you have in your home? 10,000. Really? Yes. Write it down. But by the 10-minute mark, I feel like she just gave up.
Yeah.
And it still took 7 minutes. And that is because the people that answer your calls in that situation, and this confirms it, are not designed to help you. They are salespeople. They're not trained to do anything else.
Disconnected. Samsung.com sales reps say the system makes them work for free. So they get paid on commission, but Samsung.com has them doing a lot of other things other than things that result in commissions.
And this is not Samsung necessarily. Of course, this is a third-party staffing company. Remember the name of it?
Remember the joke that we made about old people having to sort content to get their medicine? It's literally that.
I can't remember the name. Oh, Ibu. IBBU. So this is an app where it's sort of like Uber, I guess. You check in whatever you want, and your phone starts ringing, or the chat start popping up, and you're talking to Samsung people. But like you say, some of these people said, yeah, I'll usually do like a 3-hour block. Didn't get a single sales. These people were not looking. People were trying to reset their passwords. They were trying to fix broken devices. Nobody wanted to buy anything. And then Samsung comes along, and they're like, but you could still try.
Yeah.
So maybe stay away from Ibu.
Oh, that reminds me of when I used to work at a grocery store, and like they would try to get you to upsell stuff to customers while they were checking out. It's like they don't want the credit card, they don't want the reusable bag, they don't want the freezer bag. Like just let them go.
Yeah, the reward stuff. When I walk into a gas station and they're like, do you want a reward card? And it's like, I don't even know what this gas station is called.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could help the Samsung Ibu people, by writing a script that says something like, oh, sorry, I'm having technical difficulties, disconnect and reconnect. And so literally everybody that asks for anything other than I would like to buy a phone says, sorry.
Oh, actually, they cover that. So when in the training document at the very top, and I think this guy had a picture of it, it was like, hey, if this is not about them buying something, you need to disconnect and push them back over to support. But what they figured out was, if you do that, it hurts your rank. And it's a rank up to 5. If you drop below 4.1, you're fired.
Wow. Time for everybody to do that. It sounds like a union might be needed. All the workers can coordinate with one another.
But it's gig work from the app.
Yeah, it's
So
a third party, so they'll just get rid of that third party and go to someone else.
Unlimited shills.
Eventually, you'll run out of people. Amazon is facing that problem. Eventually, Amazon has run out
That's
of...
why they're recruiting high schoolers.
Yeah.
There's going to be people sitting in algebra doing Samsung support. Billy, put your phone away. I can't.
They can't get their password.
Listen, I'm at like a 4.15 right now. I have to do this.
Yeah. Well, Peloton, we've done quite a few Peloton stories in the recent past. None of them good.
No.
Seems like Peloton were riding that pandemic wave early, but they really didn't have anything to back it up with.
No.
They flew much too close to the sun. And now, what are they going to do? Well, they're going with the printer business model.
Peloton is raising subscription fees while cutting prices for its bikes and other equipment. Basically, they'll sell it to you at a discount, and then you rent it forever.
I wonder, I mean, it probably would be fairly easy to get a Peloton and retrofit it to be open source. That could be a project.
Oh, that'd probably be a fun video. Probably get us sued. Probably be fun, though.
Do we have enough money for the legal fees?
I don't think they'd, as long as we just waited them out in court, I think we'd be fine. We'd get a lot of views.
We should go to the local recycling center and get some just really beat all the crap ski machine or something, and then turn that into an open source thing.
How great would it be if you did a whole ecosystem, like those piracy boxes where they actually have the online community and everything,
Yeah.
like create a rogue Peloton.
But it's encouraging, and people are like helping everybody get fit.
Piraton.
Oh.
Piraton bikes. Oh, that's so good.
We could do like Adafruit and sell little sensor modules, and it's like, oh, I need a proximity sensor for this. And it's like, just get this. It's got holes in it for a zip tie. You just zip tie it to your machine, and then when the wheel comes around, it counts as a revolution, and you just set it up in your software and say, this is a...
And put a game controller on that
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like the balance board thing that we did. We could literally sell stuff like that as kits, and you retrofit your exercise equipment, and then all of a sudden...
Don't steal that idea.
We just workshopped that with you, but
Instead, come watch our horrible videos as we try to do that and probably fail, but it'll be fun.
And it was probably fun for these people who did something similar. There was something that they loved. It went away, and they recreated it. The problem is
Disney.
that thing was owned by Disney, yes.
Club Penguin Rewritten has been shut down by Disney. The website is seized by London police. It was amazing. The Gestapo would be so proud.
the second clause there really kind of amps up the drama of the headline.
Yeah, there was a police raid, like a drug raid, same kind of thing. But the crime here was running a clone of Club Penguin.
And I don't think they used any of the original code or assets, did they?
I don't
The
know.
assets look pretty similar, but I don't know. Maybe they
But
changed
how hard
something.
is that to reproduce?
Yeah, it's just like pixel art.
Disney bought the original Club Penguin for $700 million because they really desperately need to control your children in order for their business model to continue.
I'm kind of amazed Club Penguin's still a thing, honestly.
It's not. It shut down in 2017.
But Disney might use it.
Yes, Disney, I guarantee you, has somebody somewhere working, slaving away in a basement.
Somebody at Disney's probably working on a Club Penguin movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're
So they
gonna-
can sell their subscriptions to Club Penguin.
And then they're going to come out and say, look what just came out of the vault. It's Club...
The vault.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's Club Penguin, blah, blah, blah.
Probably the issue right now with Club Penguin in Disney's eyes is that you need those people to be about 5 to 10 years older for max nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that from the He-Man files.
Yeah. Oh, well, a lot of stuff they're doing recently. They're really hitting our childhoods hard. Transformer. Well, I hate the idea of NFTs. I just don't want to be a part of that world. I think they're mostly fake, and I think that we're getting caught up in this whole Web3 thing is just awful. So this headline makes me so happy.
Jack Dorsey's first tweet, quote unquote, the NFT went on sale for $48 million. It ended with a top bid of just $280, as it should be.
It's still too high.
Yeah.
So this gentleman tweeted, and he was like, hey, I'm selling this, and I'm going to donate half the proceeds, which he estimated to be $25 million or more. And I wonder if he'll still be donating half of that $280. I don't think it's the kind of auction where he's going to be forced to sell it. But now that you know that it has no value, do you think it'll ever have value?
We should have bought it for $300 just for the lulls.
How do you think if Elon Musk buys Twitter, how does it affect the price of that tweet?
Probably goes down.
Maybe.
Elon will destroy all of Jack Dorsey's tweets in a weird power struggle.
Well, he owns the NFT for the one, so
And crypto is becoming more and more of a contentious topic, mostly because of the energy used to mine the coins and stuff like that. It's not green, which means that it must be destroyed.
Wikipedia community, I thought I was going to say Wikimedia, community votes to stop accepting cryptocurrency donations. Updated. The update is they're considering suspending or they did?
It wasn't much of an update, actually. I think the main facts are still there.
We are aware of the community's request the foundation consider ending our acceptance of donations to cryptocurrency. So the article originally made it sound like they were going to stop, but the update makes it sound like they're considering stop.
Wikipedia's probably like, we kind of need the money, though, for the hosting.
Yeah. They point out that Valve and Tesla have both given up on Bitcoin, but Wikipedia doesn't give you anything. Like, there's no transaction there. It's just donation. So why would you ever want to stop people from giving you money?
Maybe they don't want to be investigated. They don't want that kind of heat.
So, streaming services, there are an astonishing number of free streaming services. And my parents are discovering them all through Fire TV because they don't care about watching commercials. They'll watch, an episode of Gunsmoke and watch 50 commercials. They're fine with that. It's okay. Most of us have, hopefully, higher standards. Yeah. But IMDb was one website that did it. And guess what? It's been gobbled up.
The streaming service formerly known as IMDb TV is rebranding to Amazon Freevee.
That's a terrible name.
It is awful. Are they just trying to kill it so they can get people on Amazon Prime?
That could be.
They want in on the streaming wars.
So they got some quotes here. It's like, yeah, it's free, but there's a lot of ads and people like that. They are still doing like originals, which is interesting. Bosch Legacy. I don't know what that
Do
is.
they even have a budget if it's all free?
Yeah. Amazon money.
Well, now, but
Yeah, I don't know.
it's weird. Strange.
And the phone wars are heating up. One of the big things about the European regulators that they want and will probably get is interoperability. They don't want Facebook messages to be any different than iMessages. And maybe Google is getting started on that.
Google quietly launches its awaited switch to Android app on iOS. I think that this is just Apple and Google have completely lost sight of what people want in a mobile phone. They have no clue.
I don't think they care.
This switch to Android app is probably going to be a higher fidelity experience than when you get a new Android phone. Because if you already have Android, you're a second-class citizen, and we don't really care when you move to a new Android phone. But if you're on Apple,
We got to keep you in this ecosystem.
we'll spend a little bit more time to make sure that your Apple to Android experience is good. But here's the thing. Both of those companies have no idea how people actually use their phone. I'm sure they've got metrics and numbers telling them how to do stuff, but basic things like copy and paste don't work reliably anymore.
I bet the number of people who copy and paste on their phone is astonishingly low. I bet it would shock you.
Yeah.
I had to teach my mom how to do it.
I tried to teach my dad. When my dad sends me stuff on Amazon, he still copies and pastes, but he highlights the page and pastes that into an email. And I'm like, the URL, and he can't do that on the iPad. So, yeah. But
I need to turn this email into a to-do. No.
One thing that it cannot do because of the Apple privacy stuff, it can't see your apps.
Yeah.
So you still have to manually go through and add every app that you had. Which, honestly, from a security perspective, should be like 2 apps at most. Windows 11 is trying to bring more people in. And was it last week or the week before they talked about the great new features for the File Explorer? I think it was last week, right?
Yeah, last week.
I remember reading it, but I don't remember talking about it. And those seemed pretty good. Did you guys have did you guys think those were nice? And the tabs and
The tabs is the biggest one.
But 1 week later, we're gonna take some steps back, it seems.
Microsoft, moving the Windows 11 taskbar may never be an option again.
How upset are you, Ryan? Don't you have a weirdly placed?
I'm not upset because I'm not using Windows 11.
I'll hang on to Windows 10 until they pry it from my cold, dead hands.
But yeah, they say that it might never be possible because of the changes to the taskbar. But you know it's got to be all the ads and telemetry.
We can't fit enough ads if you go vertical.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Or if you move the taskbar to the top, then we have to have different code for positioning things because we're not very good at placing things. So.
But there's no feature that was better than moving it to the side, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. And Bitcoin, of course, cryptocurrency as a whole, it's a big war right now. Like I said, the Greens are saying that it must be destroyed. It cannot happen. The entrenched power is basically saying the same thing, but carefully, because they don't want to admit it. But then you have people like this gentleman who are all in.
PayPal founder Peter Thiel launches a triad against the gerontocracy over Bitcoin. And so he's invested in Bitcoin. He's one of the few billionaires that is a billionaire before this that is also on top of Bitcoin. And so it's just billionaires at odds with other billionaires, which is always entertaining.
But actually probably bad because Peter Thiel is known as being a Trump guy, which means that everybody will attack this. Way to paint a target on Bitcoin.
He's definitely found some creative loopholes in accounting and finance in order to make himself much more wealthy.
But he didn't find those. He hired probably the best billionaire accountants.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but he's attacked for it. So it's an interesting situation.
Oh, man, I feel so sorry for billionaires who get attacked.
That's really tragic for them.
When they were tracking Elon's planes, and it's like, can't that man have some privacy? He tries to stay out of the public eye so hard.
He really doesn't care what people think of him.
Now, in the past, we've talked about Nintendo. Seems like every time a new platform comes out from Nintendo, the old platform stops selling the original Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
And the $7 or $8 that you paid for it during that iteration,
Just gone.
You don't ever get that back. Sorry. You need to buy it again on the new one. And it seems like Sony saw that and they were like, yeah, we need that.
Chrono Cross and other classics are suddenly, quote unquote, expiring on the PS3 and the Vita.
Actually, that's not what happened here. If you know anything about programming, where's the picture?
They rolled over. The date rolled over.
They got a null value or a bad value in here, and they're trying to date format it because it's the epoch. I bet it's just null.
Yeah.
And the expiration flag is flagging because this value is not greater than the current date.
And they asked Sony what's going on, and Sony has not responded because, of course, Sony's just going to say, "Oh yeah, oops, yeah, just your tough luck. Sorry."
You think that's a Boil the Frog event or an actual mistake?
I think that this is a happy
accident.
Yeah, a happy accident on Sony's part. Because again, I really hope that when we're talking about all these laws that make bypassing protection harder and all of the other stuff that Congress is trying to lock everything down more, it's like, look, this is depriving people of real property and they have no recourse.
You know what I didn't consider till now? Can you rent games on the Vita? Why would they ever need to expire?
You could. That was the plan a long time ago, but their store is shutting down. So this is probably related to the fact that the entire store is shutting down.
They moved to a new database.
Yeah.
And they didn't bring that along because the new database doesn't expire.
Yeah.
Well, I had no clue that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was becoming a movie. Did you?
Nope. I don't keep up with any releases anymore.
But the thing that blew my mind even more than that is that Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was a massive success.
Oh, that's the one where they reworked the CGI.
I almost wonder if that was a strategy. If they were trying to get buzz around the movie by doing such a bad release poster.
It was next level.
And some of the most brilliant marketing we've ever seen. But now we got another one, and it's also massively successful.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has the best opening weekend for a video game movie ever of all time. The previous record was set by the first Sonic movie.
What do you think the third one was?
Super Mario Brothers.
Or maybe the new Detective Pikachu.
That did terribly.
I guess is that a video? I guess Pokemon's a video game.
141 million globally. That seems kind of low, right? Are we still in a weird time for movies?
Yes, so everybody is super desperate for movies because they haven't been outside of their house.
Probably not a lot of screens in Shanghai.
Oh.
I was just thinking that maybe once they're permitted to leave their house, maybe the movies are just over the top. It's like, human contact in a room.
Does I imagine China probably has some kind of like on-demand current release streaming service like we do, right?
Probably.
You think they're killing it?
I mean, at this point, people are struggling to get food, so maybe entertainment is lower on the list of needs.
Imagine if you're sitting there and you're starving, but you turn on Sonic the Hedgehog to try to distract yourself from the fact that you're starving, and you see like snack ads from the theater.
It's not even snack ads from the theater, it's just ads that are baked into the movie.
I haven't had any popcorn since 2019.
You get to watch Sonic the Hedgehog, and earlier in the day, you ate a hedgehog because that's all you could get.
Oh no, they would have taken it out because they were like, it could be infected, and they would have just thrown it in a bag out in the street.
Yeah, that literally
like they did
happened.
with the cats.
Yeah.
Did you not see
they're
that?
killing the cats.
They killed it's bad.
Don't tell me about killing cats.
It's really bad.
Well, Robinhood. I had to pay a bunch of taxes because got to get away from Robinhood, right? As soon as the GameStop thing happened, I was like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore, boys. So all my long-term, and I got to pay taxes on them. But seems like I'm not the only one.
They're robbing me. Angry Robinhood users flood the FTC with complaints. For all the people who made millions on GameStop, plenty of Robinhood users slammed the company and FTC complaints obtained by Gizmodo. Now, for some reason, they only supplied about 200 complaints, but there are thousands upon thousands. The FTC did not have time to give them all, apparently. They're working on it. So, a lot of the complaints, they tried to summarize. Most of them were, hey, GameStop's, or Robinhood is rigging the game here.
But they also, the way that they settled options is there was like this weird interim time when all your numbers would be wrong because the options had expired, but they hadn't exercised them yet. And it's just like, how do you get that wrong? That one guy killed himself. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible company. Well, Tim Cook has had a lot to say this past week. First of all, he was talking about the whole Metaverse 50% commission thing. I know that was pretty hypocritical. You can't really blame him for that one. That was an easy one. But now he is still on this crusade to destroy sideloading.
Tim Cook uses privacy keynote to attack sideloading. Forgets to talk about the NSO Group scandals and all the people they've had to contact, and the fact that it still continues to be a problem.
I don't think he forgot.
No, it was probably written down in his paper. Don't mention these things.
Now, sideloading apps, that's the real problem, not state-sponsored malware arbitrarily taking over any device on the planet with no way for you to get in there and do any kind of detective work to figure out what's going on.
Sideloading could lead to your bank account getting compromised. It could lead to you getting advertised to. It could lead to a lot of different tracking.
Could maybe lead to a prince sawing all your limbs off while you're still alive and disposing of your corpse.
Oh, no, sideloading wouldn't do that. That's the other thing you were talking about.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to compare the two. Yeah. It's inconvenient, the things that might happen to you because of sideloading. It doesn't compare to becoming a political prisoner. And the most famous attack like this one that we're going to tell you about was Stuxnet. If you don't know what Stuxnet was, it was probably did the Israeli government ever claim that?
I don't think they did.
It was probably them. It went into Iran, and they put some malware on the controls in the nuclear plants.
The enrichment accelerator.
Just a USB stick.
Do you remember how crazy people went when the Russians invaded Chernobyl?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the same kind of response when Israel? That's weird.
That's weird.
But what if it happened here?
U.S. warns sophisticated ICS SCADA malware can damage critical infrastructure. This is malware that lives on the types of industrial control systems. They're special computers. They're not supposed to be on the internet. Sometimes people get lazy.
I think they almost always are at this point.
Yeah. And it turns out that we've been spot checking some of them because we're worried about it. And it turns out there's some bad stuff there.
So if you run a big industrial facility and you have Schneider Electric, Omron, or OPC, you're in trouble.
That's basically all of them. Remember the story we reported on last week about the FBI deciding to arbitrarily flash or shut down routers that were infected with the malware and were a part of a botnet command and control? This is like that, except that instead of being a criminal gang, it is probably a foreign intelligence service. So way worse.
And the Stuxnet, it was designed not to cripple that stuff, but to remove safeties. Like Stuxnet wanted it to explode.
Yeah.
And probably if you're going to the links that these people are going to, it's probably what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's bad.
Doesn't inspire confidence.
No.
Well, this was definitely the most terrifying story for me this week because I feel like I'd be a victim of this a lot if this were to happen. And what are you going to do about it? You're helpless because it's just all the evil around you.
A new SpeedCam app lets anyone, anywhere submit evidence of drivers speeding. The new app will allow any member of the public to submit evidence of other drivers speeding to the police. Probably this will notify police that, hey, go look for this car, and then they can go figure it out. But it's probably going to be a huge mess.
Now, they can't get you for speeding, although this app does claim it can use AI to guess speed, even if you're moving in opposite directions.
It'll never get that wrong.
They claim it's really good. The terrifying thing is that cops are going to start using that.
Yeah.
Oof. But yeah, you can't get away from it. And so right now you can't just like get a ticket in the mail like you can with the real speed cameras. But that's probably coming, don't you think?
How long until Google is compelled by your local authority or your state to automatically report people in speed zones to the government?
They already track that. Like when you're using the Google stuff,
Yeah.
you can see it.
Or someone hits you with the speed thing. They can't prove anything from that, but they can take the timestamp and go to your black box, which is online, and they can see exactly what you were doing during that time.
Yeah. Well, if you use Google Maps, you look and it's like there's traffic there, and it's like, how does it know that traffic is busy? Because all the other Android phones are reporting that there's that guy that had the red wagon of phones. There was like 50 or 100 phones in there, and so he was just dragging it down a non-busy highway.
It was a city street, and it looked like there was a major traffic jam, but it was just that guy.
Yeah, and Google Maps is like, that's weird. It says this road is totally nobody's moving, and it's just the guy with a wheelbarrow of
That's
phones.
probably one of my favorite stories we ever did. What a troll.
Yeah.
Well, the Ukrainian war rages on, and we get more and more interesting ways to kill other people. They're really getting good at that, and technology has a lot to do with it. But this one threatens us, although really mostly only our convenience and commerce.
Russia is jamming GPS satellite signals in Ukraine, Space Force says.
Which, hilarious that the Space Force is a thing.
This is not the first time we reported this. Remember, there were exercises where commercial ships were having trouble moving in and out of port because their systems also relied on GPS, and some of the Russian ships were coming into port, to like commercial ports to get parts or whatever, but they were military vehicles, and it's like, that's weird. The GPS isn't working, and it's like, oops, they left that turned on. They forgot.
You'd think at the bottom of the checklist there'd be a special check that's like turn off after exercise.
Highest quality Russian control panel. It's like the switch doesn't always turn off.
You gotta tap it.
Yeah.
There's a trick to it.
Well, every time that someone makes something good, Microsoft comes along and then they usually buy it or clone it, and they make that thing for Windows, and it sucks.
Get for Windows issues update to fix running someone else's code vulnerability. Running multi-user Windows environment, and Get, it's time to patch. So somebody else that uses your computer could trick your installation of Get into running code that they wrote.
And all they need is write access to the same disk. They don't need to get into your account.
Which isn't a huge thing, but it's sort of off-putting.
Did we really need to shorten vulnerability in this headline?
I also had that thought. I was like, what a weird editing convention to put that there.
I wonder if that was the maximum field length of the register. It'd be easy enough to determine that by looking at the last few hundred register headlines and seeing if they exceed this character count.
Or if we were to edit it and add a bunch more characters and see if it breaks the layout.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, the designer didn't design for headlines that could be this long. Guess I'll just limit the number of characters.
My favorite is when I get a design and they've done the same headline, so it's always the same length, and I'm like, nah, we gotta break that immediately to see what it does.
we used to, before your time, we would almost get into fights over that. It's like, what I want you to do is I want you to just generate 500 random characters.
Yeah.
And every single time.
There's lorem ipsum for that. Like, just put lorem ipsum into it.
The more mistakes like that you make in the design, the more I'm going to use cat pictures as placeholders.
Yeah, I did that this week. We had that client too who had the website where they had a Spanish, and they did not account for how long Spanish words would be
Yeah.
for some of their designs.
Some of the blurbs. It is weird how many more words there are in Spanish to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, we talk a lot about the app stores and all that stuff and how terrible they are.
It's a war zone for your privacy and data.
How do you navigate that minefield? Well, do you trust Google? Don't trust Google.
Google Chrome Web Store is going to show badges for reputable developers and extensions.
How much you got to buy?
This
Spend
comes
for a badge.
This comes like 2 years after the Great Purge, where somebody woke up at Google and finally looked at the Chrome store and said, "Wow, this is a wasteland of scam and terribleness."
Developers who earn these badges may receive higher rankings in search and filtering. Let me rephrase that. If you don't have one of these, don't bother. So to get the badge, Krista, I don't think you have to pay anything. You do have to go through all of their security, like confirm your account, two-factor it, blah, blah, blah. And then there's like a rolling check to make sure that no one's complaining about you. So basically you kind of start out with it.
Yeah. That can't be abused at all.
And we actually did this story before, right?
Yep.
But it was a while back, and when we talked about it, and it might not even been the same cop, but we are finding out that this is a tactic that is maybe not illegal, but certainly frowned upon.
Cop admits to playing copyrighted music through a squad car PA to keep videos off YouTube. Save this story. Save this story because when somebody says, "Oh, we need algorithmic filtering for something," like our Congress critters are trying to do here in America, and no doubt will soon be coming to the European Union, this is the story. This is how that's weaponized. We have right now several different fronts on this war. One of them is on Google Drive. There have been a lot of mistakes lately on Google Drive because Google Drive is now scanning your files and looking for hashes of files that are on the naughty list. What files are on the naughty list? We don't know. We can make some pretty good guesses. But there are academics and researchers that have said, hey, Google Drive won't let me have access to files that I own on my Google Drive, and it says that they're malicious, and I get this really scary sounding email like I've done something wrong. It turns out it's mistakes. If you had a 3-byte file on your Google Drive that had a certain three letters in it, it was one of the files that would happen to get flagged or produce a hash. It's not really, they're not scanning for a specific file, they're scanning for a hash. That is algorithmic enforcement. YouTube, algorithmic enforcement. This is algorithmic enforcement.
Now, you're wondering, oh, did this person who filmed the video like submit it and YouTube was like, oh yeah, and they followed up? No. It turned out that a city councilman was living in the house where this guy turned it on. And he turned it on through the PA system on the car. So it was so loud, it woke up the entire neighborhood.
It was a recurring thing.
And the city councilman came out, and it was Disney music because they knew that Disney music
will absolutely come after you.
Yeah, that's the best one. So this is just, he just happened to get caught. How many times has this already happened?
The councilman said that this is a constantly recurring thing. So whenever they had a stop or whenever they had some problem in the neighborhood, standard operating procedure was, oh yes, it's time to play the theme from Frozen.
And the video, I was watching the video, I was reading the comments in the video, and in the video, the city councilman says, do you know who I am? And the comment was like, that's the first time I've ever heard, do you know who I am, and liked it.
Yeah.
And the cop did know, and he was worried. Well, they've been really cracking down on the hacking forums and sites and stuff like that. You think maybe all the stuff from Ukraine and the hacking? They're probably getting some budget.
Yeah.
Right now, yeah.
Windfalls, yeah. So they're taking them down quick.
Krebs on Security has raid forums gets raided, alleged admin arrested. So this is a darknet website where a lot of crime has been happening, and they got the domain.
Do you ever think about the person who has to put all those logos on the site?
Well,
who makes these pages?
I was just thinking these pages don't look all that professional.
No, they always look like this. They look like garbage.
They used to have the one that was just a blue background that looked like the old FBI warning on video games and movies.
Yeah.
It looks so bad, it really looks like a scam.
Although, Christy, we've worked with government agencies before. They are very specific
about how many logos and where they go.
They got to be the same size.
Yeah, because you don't want someone to feel left out if they helped.
Very important. And this is, we kind of hear this stuff all the time. It's not surprising that they tell us about it, but this guy, he lays out the whole thing where it's like, SHA?
Yeah. This is silly, though. Pentagon's outgoing data boss warns of quantum cyber threats. Okay, so he's warning about quantum computers and the threat that they pose, while we still can't get password policy and two-factor correct. I mean, he's not wrong, but let's get some basic stuff correct. There's a lot of machines in the government right now that are still completely unpatched from last week's Windows SMB vulnerability, and it's sad. It's very sad.
I don't think he's worried so much about that kind of stuff. I think he's worried about pure espionage. I might know that that's one way that they could do it easily, but I think he's more worried about them going back and undoing everything from before, which is what that would be.
Sigh.
That lookup goes in the other direction.
And only the other direction.
Now, this one, I could not find a real story about this, but this is exactly what we were talking about with the whole automobile tracking thing. Because, we really don't have a headline here.
It's a lawsuit. This person, individually and on behalf of others, versus Autonomo.
Is that? Oh, yeah. Autonomo, I think is.
Autonomo.
Yeah.
Whatever. It turns out that company gets a lot of your driving data from a lot of the modern vehicles that are built from a lot of different companies.
And you're sitting there wondering, it's like, well, does that affect me?
BMW,
Almost
General
surely.
Motors, Ford, and Toyota use electronic devices in their cars to send a real-time GPS location directly to that company through a secret always-on cellular data connection. In this way, drivers never even realize that they're being tracked. The aforementioned speeding ticket thing, it knows where you are. It knows how fast you're traveling. You can compute if somebody should get a speeding ticket or not. That's evidence of a crime. They have evidence of a crime. We need to seize that.
So now that I own my car, I've been on some forums to try to learn how to remove all that garbage. It's not enough to pull the antenna, because it's still, just the chip itself could be strong enough if you get close enough to something. You have to go in and actually remove
The SIM card.
a piece of it. And then you have to reset some fuses, I think.
Wow.
Disgusting. And I've completely forgotten what this one is about.
Oh, they're able to figure
right.
you out, yeah. Even if you don't participate.
You're tracking your location. Let's say that,
It's Cambridge Analytica for your location.
every Friday after we record the news, maybe Krista and I both go to the store, which is not untrue every week. Just her being there, I could throw my phone in the dumpster, but just because she's there every time and it realizes that I'm around her a lot, they can make some assumptions.
A cautionary tale about location tracking. So even if you take all the necessary steps to protect your information, your cohorts can give you away.
And strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And strangers, yeah, that's true.
So basically, as long as you have created that profile already.
Now, we know this is true from things like Cambridge Analytica. Look at all the ridiculous insanity that came about as of Cambridge Analytica. The one dimension of data that we have now that we didn't necessarily have with Cambridge Analytica was also your location data and stuff that's nearby. And it's not considered privileged information, for example, for your phone to report to an application the MAC addresses of the Wi-Fi access points that you see. And it's pretty trivial to look up the MAC address and find out the last time that Wi-Fi access point was seen, what was its MAC address. Your Google Map cars map that. The Apple Map cars map that. There are other third-party companies that map, oh, this is a Wi-Fi network broadcasting here with this MAC address. This phone saw this MAC address. I know where they are. That's how the original iPhone did location tracking before it had a GPS chip. And this is just that, taken to the individual level. So this is just remixing stuff that's already been kind of horrifying.
But with Google's talent at, searching and cataloging.
Yeah.
So.
Exciting times.
You can never be anonymous even if you want to be.
Nope.
You got to get somebody else's phone. You got to steal a phone, carry that with you.
Or just not have a phone, which no one's going to do.
But if you go from having a phone to not having a phone, you're not immediately.
Yep.
They still know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
You can-
Also, honestly, like if you're like, I'm not going to have a phone anymore, that probably immediately puts you on a list.
Yep.
And finally, we've got a Patch Tuesday roll-up for some fairly critical security problems that Microsoft has thankfully solved.
Microsoft Patch Tuesday, April 2022 edition. This kind of goes with the other story, except that there's a new SMB vulnerability that's wormable and remotely exploitable. So if you have not patched your Windows server and you use SMB or your Windows workstation and you use file shares on Windows, you really, really need to deploy this patch, because next week we're going to be reporting on the horrible malware that shut down companies and encrypted everything because they didn't patch this. It's one of those. It's one of those where it's like really bad, and there's not malware that exploits it yet, but there will be by next week. Don't worry.
He-Sung is furious.
There's smoke coming from the keyboards. He's going so fast.
He stopped all work on the drone program to only work on this.
Yeah.
104, a long one. We knew it was going to be a long one. There's so
Yeah.
many business stories today.
All right, we will see you guys on Friday.
Woo.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Today's April 22nd, and we're doing robots, space, and nonsense today. It's a good sections. My favorite sections.
Short, though.
Our first
Yeah.
story is definitely nonsense.
Not a lot of nonsense this week. Well, technically, this is the space section because it is about the moon. Now, whether or not there will be extra budget for this after 2022, I'm not sure about that.
Trying to sound impressive, Putin will says that Russia is going to resume its lunar program.
That's a little editorialized, blah. But yeah, he wants to get the gang back together, start the space race again. We're just Cold War 2.0.
There's some of the gang that really doesn't want to get back together, though.
I think most of that gang's dead, aren't they? Yeah, I can't. I mean, if you're thinking about but we do see the cosmonauts. Like, they seem to be okay equipped up there at the space station.
I'm pretty sure that Cameroon has a better chance of moon landings at this point.
Yeah, if you compare like the Ukrainian forces, I mean the Russian forces in Ukraine and their readiness, and you like extrapolate that to a space program, I wouldn't want to go.
No. Well,
Their sub-program's doing great.
I saw this headline somewhere else first, and it was like, oh, they're restarting their lunar program, and all I could think was, with what budget? What money you got?
Well, I mean, he still is making lots of energy dollars,
Yeah.
and those prices are going up. So maybe. I don't know. But he will not be the only person shooting for the moon. Of course, we're shooting for the moon. China's shooting for the moon, and private business. We are getting private business in space.
First all-private astronaut team arrives at the International Space Station.
Their pockets are just full of ads that they're like stickering all over the ISS.
I gotta wonder if you're a scientist on the ISS trying to get stuff done, and all these folks show up, because they're all just wealthy people that wanted the space tourism, basically.
Well, they say they're going to do experiments, but why would we care if these people do experiments?
Yeah, I mean,
I think they're just going to be, floating around, bumping into stuff.
there's going to be
Hitting switches they shouldn't.
There's going to be a 200 IQ physicist on there that's like, man, I did this experiment in high school. There's no point to what you're doing.
One of the real astronauts is going to be like, floating through first thing in the morning, and they're going to see a little globe of urine. And they're going to be like,
these damn space tourists.
There's just stickers for all their companies slapped over the dashboard. He can't get to anything he's trying to access.
dirty clothing and stuff floating around.
Pizza.
Where did you get pizza? But maybe one of the things that we can learn about when the Russians go back to the moon sometime in 2050 is the dark side. Because much like the Pink Floyd album, it's a mystery.
Mystery of the moon's far side explained by massive impact at the South Pole. So the dark side of the moon looks completely different than the side of the moon that always faces us. And it may have been because of volcanic activity, this article says. Well, it says it's likely because of volcanic activity.
More craters there, or bigger craters.
One side held lava and the other didn't.
I bet someday there'll be a moon civil war against the sun side versus the dark side. And the sun is sending its energy to the moon. That's why we can see it. And sometimes it sends more energy than others because the sun is not a benevolent being. It's a giant ball of fire. Sometimes big pieces of it explode.
Sunspot activity on the sun is seriously exceeding official predictions. Everybody go look up the Carrington event and now have
and then get real nervous.
And have another thing on your list that you have to worry about.
We've had a lot of, you can go to spaceweather.com and they'll show you, like, when these CMEs come out. And none of them have been enough to be really disruptive, but there have been quite a few this year.
But isn't it true that most of them aren't right at us?
Right.
Yeah.
Because, it's a giant ball. The likelihood of it shooting in the perfect spot to hit us.
Yeah, and where we are in orbit.
It's like a madman with a machine gun, and he's just shooting wildly, and he's probably not going to hit us, and we're far enough away that, we can
most
be
of the time it's okay, yeah.
But that one stray bullet in the wrong place could be real bad.
But it's worse than that because it's a madman with a machine gun, and if he ever stops pulling the trigger, we die.
He wasn't pulling the trigger very fast for the better part of like 25 or 30 years at this point. It's almost like, aliens or something were like, let's calm their sun down because their civilization is building, and if they get a solar flare right now, it's really going to set them back.
Seems like
and now we've reached another point where they're like, ooh, things are going real weird on that planet. Let's make it worse.
Yeah, now that they're able to scan the internet, they're like, you know what? Let's turn those machines off.
That's probably, you know what? I bet it's because of Donald Trump. The other thing in that article they were talking about, because we have solar maximums and solar minimums, it's constantly ebbing and flowing, but they described it as like, yeah, we expected it to do this thing. We don't know. We have no idea what it's doing.
Yeah, it's hard to predict.
Yeah, our model did not predict this much activity for sure.
Well, you know what I predicted? I predicted this for sure. I hate to say I told you so, but how could you not know this was going to fail? It had to fail.
Amazon is still struggling to make drone deliveries work. Amazon's drone program has yet to gain any momentum. If they want to get this off the ground, what they need to do is do alcohol delivery first. Drones that are built specifically to deliver alcohol in a hurry at a substantial premium.
Near college campuses too, so it'll be like in a city.
But then that drone fails, and little Timmy gets a hold of that bottle of vodka, and he's alcohol poisoned.
Or people just start shooting them down.
How do you card somebody?
I'm pretty sure that Amazon is wealthy enough to pay some politicians to preemptively deal with that situation. Amazon's not responsible for malfunctioning drone events.
The pharmaceutical path.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, it worked for Purdue.
Here's the crazy thing about this is, they described how these things fail, and they're like, oh, they've got all these safeguards in them. The way that one of them failed is it went up, and as it was disengaging to go from vertical to, front thrust, everything failed. It turned down, went straight down, caught fire, and burned a cornfield. Like, it couldn't have been worse.
Yeah.
Couldn't have been worse.
Imagine that happening in, like, California where everything's so dry all the time.
My takeaway from that was just that the lithium power pack gave out and it set everything on fire because it's lithium.
And then they had another wreck, and when the FAA got there, Amazon had already cleaned it up.
Don't worry about that one. It's fine.
I don't think that's allowed. And autonomous drones are not the only things that might kill you. Autonomous cars may as well.
The video of this is great.
They can react strangely.
Autonomous cruise car encountered with police raises policy questions. So this was a self-driving car driving around a city at night with its lights off. The police tried to pull it over. The car pulled over, and when they approached it, there was no driver, and the police were confused, and then the car took off and then pulled over again.
Turns out that second pullover was someone in the data center when, a bell started ringing, and it was like, hey, a car is stopping, and it's not supposed to stop. And when they looked at it, they hit the button like,
the camera and saw the cops.
yield to police. But I guess that triggered another subroutine where the car was like, oh, I better pull over. But it was already pulled over, so it pulled over again. Yeah. The headlights were broken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can't relate.
We talk a lot about packing and shipping robots. That seems to be our most useful robot right now.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh, and Flippy.
I guarantee you there have been some very high-level conversations at Amazon talking to Boston Dynamics both about Spot and their unloading robot for immediate deployment in New York. Guarantee it.
But the problem is the one thing that those robots can't do that the New Yorkers can is pick up things that are soft, because the robot, it's stupid. It'll just destroy them with its strong robot hands. Until now.
Artificial fingertip gives robots nearly human-like touch. Boston Dynamics is calling on line 2.
Look at that. Can pick up a paper crane. Kind of big, though.
They'll miniaturize it, don't worry.
So it's got little sensors, just like the human skin. It's got lots and lots of little sensors, and so it can actually feel all that haptic feedback and pick up eggs or whatever.
It knows how the thing is deforming, so.
Pretty impressive.
This was kind of a post-mortem more than an actual article.
But the big thing I think we take away from this is that it's not going to stop.
No.
Because we learned that Zillow, they did some zestimating.
Some zestimates.
They got it wrong.
And they figured out that they should buy a bunch of houses for a certain amount of money, and they got killed on those houses because the AI was not good at it. You might think that would be a cautionary tale to other places, but not according to a technology review.
House flipping algorithms are coming to your neighborhood. So you should read this and understand the dark future that's coming with this kind of thing, and maybe you'll be able to do something about it where you are. But yes, it talks a lot about how Zillow was a useful tool for finding homes for sale in your area, and then they sort of inserted themselves into that market. They're saying, oh, we know which houses we need to buy. We can immediately flip these and make a lot of money. This is a new avenue for investing. It didn't really work out that way, but this article kind of hints around it without saying it directly. When you have so much money in play, you have investors with billions and billions and billions of dollars. You have, trillion-dollar companies that have these enormous war chests and they don't really know what to do with their cash. You can invest so heavily into a market that by investing in it, you are directly controlling the price. So if you have all these hedge funds buy all of the housing or buy all of the commodities and then only release them at a very slow rate, you effectively are going to control a finite resource and make it artificially crazy expensive.
See also what Walmart did to a lot of small towns, where they slowly expanded their influence to the point that no little guy could compete with them, and then they rose their prices.
It's kind of a reverse diapers.com. What you're describing is what Amazon did with diapers.com, but this is kind of a reverse diapers.com, where the end result is still enriching the billionaires, but there's not really an easy way to fix the situation short of having not one entity or one group buy literally everything with no intention of actually using it.
But isn't Amazon doing to Walmart what they did to
Yeah.
mom and pop at this point?
Yeah.
It's always a bigger fish, right? So there was a great story in here, though. One guy, he told his experience. He was looking for a house in a certain area, and he went online. He was looking, and it was like, oh, yeah, I would like to. And it was all automated. There was no, because Zillow owned it. And so he went to look at the house that he liked, and it turned out that
He paid to have it inspected, and it found some problems.
well, he didn't have to have it inspected because there was stagnant water from a leak.
Well, he said he spent $2,000 on that, and he lost it because he didn't get it.
And it turned out when he went to the house, there was all sorts of notices pasted to the door, like, hey, you're in violation of city code XYZ. But Zillow owned it, so no one cared.
Yeah, nobody actually owns. That's crazy that there's so many homeless people.
Yeah, they didn't.
Or people who are trying to get into homes to stop renting and they can't because of stuff like this.
A new record, the employment records came out, and blah blah blah. But 17 million homes that are vacant, and we have 600,000 homeless. Anyway, but also not just the notices thing. He put an offer in, and he's like, "This is like $30,000 of problem, but the market's really hot right now. I'm willing to fix this." And they turned down his offer. And then a month later, they sold it to another family for what he had offered.
Because the algorithm waited a month, and it was like, oh, I can't get more than that. I'll just settle for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was happy.
Yeah. So he's just like, why? But he spent $2,000 on the inspections. Like, sell it to that guy.
Yeah. Imagine if we could just sell to each other and cut all these people out of the
Yeah, all these
situation.
businesses out of owning a home for living.
It's literally the Uber grift, but with homes, which is even worse.
Well, it's Canada. Canada stopped allowing foreign people to buy for a few years. I'm wondering if we'll get something like that eventually here. Probably not, because they don't regulate anything, but
That was squarely aimed at China, though.
yeah.
Now, I usually have a policy of not showing fancy new battery technology or stuff like this, because
we got burnt too many times.
I don't know if it's ever going to exist. But this is kind of exciting.
A new heat engine with no moving parts is as efficient as a steam turbine. The design could someday enable a fully decarbonized power grid. I think we're a long way away from that, but basically something that is white hot. You can convert 40% of that energy back into electricity, which is about how efficient our natural gas electricity production power plants are.
But couldn't we, this would be a very simple thing. Anytime you have to flare a gas well,
Yeah.
pop one of these on it.
Generate a bunch of, yeah.
Or how about the El Salvador volcano?
Oh, yeah. Well, the volcano, the energy output from the volcano may not be high enough energy because it's the infrared, red glowy, I don't know.
Put a turbojet on that.
If you have volcanoes already, though, like Iceland, isn't most of their power not, most of their power is green because they have all the volcanic activity?
Yeah, I think steam turbine's still going to win in Iceland and El Salvador.
But this is the same efficiency as a steam turbine with no moving parts. This would still be better.
Oh, yeah, the no moving parts part is not.
Less to repair over time.
I mean, eventually that thing, I guess, will melt. You pop another one on there.
Just clean it. Send somebody in once a month and just Windex it down. It's fine.
One thing, we read a lot of these news stories, and when I usually do them in, 1 or 2 sittings, so you're constantly clicking those stupid cookie boxes. And I won't just say, okay.
No, I have to go through, and make sure that they're not stealing all your crap.
Just to spite them. I don't think it really protects me that much. I want them to never get anything from me because I hate them. This would be fantastic.
AI-powered browser extension to automatically click away cookie pop-ups has now promised. The tool disables non-essential tokens. Nice. University of Wisconsin-Madison, good job.
Yeah. Oh!
Oh,
how
sort.
Perfect!
Oh.
How many clicks? No. They said an average of 12 clicks. 1, 2. Oh, that one didn't even. Oh, look! It doesn't click the box. Dark pattern. 3.
Or just
4,
poor accessibility.
5.
Unclassified, you got to expand unclassified, don't you? And then are they just
unclassified? Like it won't even tell you. It won't even give you the option. So we got to 6 clicks to look at a website.
Houston, we have a problem. Jeff Koons is sending sculptures to the moon to be launched at the Kennedy Space Center later this year. 125 Koons moon sculptures will be displayed the moon in a fully transparent compartmentalized cube.
Do you think he was sitting around? It's like, what rhymes with my name?
The moon.
My mom did not get to touch a moon rock. Update for those who maybe were interested.
Where did she go that she might get that?
She went to I think they couldn't go to the Kennedy Space Station, but they did get to see the launch. So they got to see a SpaceX launch.
It's a fun trip.
Yeah.
Now here's the problem with this. I don't know how closely you guys read this, but he's going to do the tiny versions that are going to go on the moon in a display case. Big versions here on Earth that you can actually go to like a museum, I guess, to look at. But most importantly, number 3, NFTs for all of it.
Yeah.
Now this is the dude that did the rabbit, which is incredible. Because that is solid. What's that made out of, Chris? Is that stainless steel?
I don't know.
But it looks like a balloon.
And it's funny because you can now buy that kind of art like all over the place. It's become very commercialized.
But that one in particular sold for many, many millions, didn't it?
Yeah. Like, if it's the original from the original artist, it's going to be way more. But you can now buy replica balloon animals made out of metal all over the place.
This guy did that in '86. I bet he was the first.
Yeah. Oh, probably.
Also, to do that in '86 with the technology we had in '86, way more impressive.
Yeah. Now it's been mass produced and you can get it at your local TJ Maxx, but
we're not affiliated with TJ Maxx.
No.
One thing about that deformable robot touch software,
that was where my mind went.
Gonna revolution. Dave Chappelle's got a great story that actually a great stand-up bit that applies to several of the stories that we've got coming up. I kept thinking about that, but he says, he's talking about the origin of AIDS and how difficult that would have been. Robots would be the same problem.
People would prefer a threesome with a robot over a human,
This
study.
photo is unsettling
I love how
on multiple levels.
angry and androgynous the mannequin is.
Yeah. That's a trend right now, is so like people get their eyebrows pulled back so they have like this kind of angry, severe look all the time. It's called cat eye something.
I like the way that the androids were depicted in the Steven Spielberg AI movie with the kid, because they had the they had the sex robots in the AI movie, and I thought that the way that they did that was probably going to be pretty accurate.
Now they screen these people with a question about being open-minded.
Who are these people is the question, as
About-
always with the survey.
They were asked if they were okay to being asked sensitive kinds of questions in sex-related questions. So everybody who said no to that didn't get counted here. You would imagine they probably would have been the no answers for the robot sex. So these people were probably a little wild. But
what was that percentage of the normal population, though?
Eventually,
Right,
you get people where they're just like, I mean, all right, whatever, I don't care.
But so 37% said that they might use a robot, but only 30% said that they might go for casual encounters with another human. So they felt like that was safer, I guess. Maybe just not as...
They're really depending on the laws of robotics where it can't hurt them.
Yeah, and that's why I put this story next. Because this is the Dave Chappelle joke. Because he said, if you were to try that with a monkey, this might happen to you.
Japanese researchers develop a robot that can peel bananas.
Finally.
The problem is 45% success rate. More than half of the bananas are destroyed in the process. Which goes back to the sex robot thing. There's a video you can watch here, and it is funny to watch this fumble with the bananas.
They're regular shapes and sizes, so I could see how that'd be difficult for a robot.
I wonder, I don't want to play the video right now. Do you think that they do the break the top stem, or do they go to the other side and strip it like a monkey?
I've always been told to go the opposite way so you don't get the strings.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I never knew that as a kid.
Now, see, well, here's the $64,000 question. This is where we are today. In 20 years, do you have any doubt that all of these will be solved problems? Because none of it will, like, from an engineering perspective, we'll probably be able to, like, 3D print it out of cornstarch.
Yeah, or robots don't look anything like we think they look like anymore.
Yeah.
There's some sort of substrate that you just put electricity through and it forms into whatever shape you want.
Yeah.
Because look at how far we've come in the last 20 years.
Didn't we do a story a long time ago about a robot? Like they're trying to figure out how to pick stuff up, and it wasn't a hand like we know it or like a claw. It was just a thing that formed around the object and suction cupped
cups.
it. Yeah.
But I think this is the sort of, just moving forward with that whole process, right? Because now you got those sensors, so now you can have a hand that might not crush genitalia. Now, when we first talked about spin launch, I remember reading the comments. A lot of people were skeptical about spin launch.
We were skeptical about the physics of spin launch.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm
NASA's
saying.
apparently not.
But
well, they're going to test it.
And the spin launch videos were all rendered.
Yeah.
They did launch something up, but they didn't get it out of the atmosphere. So now maybe we find out if it's real or not.
NASA is going to test spin launch's ability to fling satellites into orbit. It's like, okay, put your money where your mouth is. Show us this works.
Yeet this into orbit.
You think those guys are furiously moving money overseas at this point? I don't remember when that's going to happen, but soon. They're not going to do a full test to the atmosphere, to the space. They're going to do another kind of test, but it has to really do something. Be a hell of a thing if it works. Bad news for Elon Musk. And I love these stories where it's just why are we doing this? And they actually give an answer to that. It's like, well, this could be used in conservation, in case we could never, if we lose them all, then we can still breed them. Rats? If we run out of rats?
Rat pups born from monetization stem cells. Rat pups were born from stem cells, basically. And the technique could be used for other species other than rats. So maybe if we're going to lose, say, the dodo bird or something like that, we could just get a little bit of genetic material, convert them into stem cells, and then...
It's too late to collect that manually from the dodos.
Yeah. Well.
Our window has passed. Look how adorable these little rat pups are.
They are. I like the term rat pup. Sometimes when Rue's being a good girl, I tell her she's a good pup.
So far they don't seem to have any genetic anomalies, which is nice, because doing what we did to that might not be the best for genetic integrity.
Oh, we did this story last week. Did we duplicate?
I didn't realize it.
About the gorilla that gets too much screen time.
I was desperate for nonsense stories this week because there were so few.
Yeah. There's a lot of bleak news in the world right now.
And this was the third story that reminded me of the Dave Chappelle bit. Because
this is bleak.
I can't understand the mechanics of this. Like, there were 4 guys. 3 of them have to be holding it, right? Because these things are vicious.
They're vicious, and also if they bite you or get their saliva on you, it's full of like toxins. Like, it can really mess you up.
Well, I think everything about this could mess you up.
Yeah, this is all messed up.
4 men arrested for raping a Bengal monitor lizard in western India. Just
why?
He's got that 500-yard stare because he's like, what are they doing to us? Why?
I don't know why the editor put the word in quotations, so I don't really want to know the details.
Bengal monitor lizards can grow up to 5.5 feet long and weigh 16 pounds. Oh, I thought they were bigger.
I mean, they're pretty good size.
You know what? I was thinking of Komodo dragons.
Also have really nasty mouths,
but would be much tougher to rape.
Yeah.
Like probably 10,000% harder. I've never looked at a lizard and felt anything but, just like mild curiosity. I wonder if you think that's genetic? How do those guys how do you find 3 other guys? How do you
approach people about that?
How does that conversation start?
That's a level of boredom I've never experienced.
Well, you go to great lengths to avoid boredom.
This is maybe too extreme.
Now, we've been seeing a lot of fake cops lately. Fake cops terrify me because if you
stand your ground and you're wrong, you're going to die. Yeah.
And if you don't stand your ground, you're going to die. So we've had the HIS fake guys who were actually like in with the real people, and then we had another recent one.
And the fake traffic stop guys.
This happens a lot. Like, women specifically are often told, like, if you're getting pulled over and you're in kind of a remote area, call 911 dispatch and tell them, I know there's a cop behind me and I'm on this road, and they'll tell you if it's a real cop or not.
But when it comes to reasons to impersonate a cop, this has to be one of the worst.
Fake DEA agent busted while trying to get a discount at a Wendy's. This is prelude to burning it down, right?
How much discount you think the DEA gets at Wendy's? Like 10?
Not even, probably.
Well, the article said that he was friends with a cashier who gave him a discount, and then he tried to continue this on by impersonating. He said that he didn't impersonate a law enforcement officer, but he has a badge that says he's got a concealed weapon permit,
which technically is not not illegal to have, I guess. But when you have just said I'm DEA and then you flash that,
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. It is, of course, Florida man.
Yeah.
So this is typical of.
Though I've seen at some of our local fast food places, there will be little signs that are like, you can get a military discount, but you have to show your ID. Does not apply to spouses, or like they have rules about it sometimes posted because apparently it's become a problem.
Also, doesn't wearing a badge that says concealed weapon defeat the purpose of a concealed
of carrying? Yeah, you just want everybody to know.
Why not just wear it? That's legal almost everywhere that concealed is legal, right? Maybe not. Well, we have discussed Germany this week and how Germany has super strict import controls. They are very, they don't like the Teslas and they don't like addictive drugs. Turns out they also don't like certain snacks, but it's not for the same reason.
Why Cheetos are banned in Germany and how Flamin' Hots sneak in anyway. There's a German snack brand that's Cheetos, CHITOS, and that sounds confusingly similar, but Flamin' Hot doesn't. So if you put a sticker over the Cheetos part of that, it's fine.
Flamin' Hot.
Well, that might not be fine because they said that one shop that did that, they sued them and argued that the sticker could be removed, which would still confuse the consumer. And they lost. They lost a couple of grand.
I take back everything I was saying about how awesome Germany was in the prior episode.
But it gets crazier than that, because Cheetos, CHITOS, doesn't exist. It's not a real product. It's on their product page, but it's clearly been rendered. Not a real bag. They do have Cheetos, CHIOS, but that's not close enough because it doesn't sound like Cheetos. So they have to maintain the fake Cheetos on their webpage to keep the trademark.
Germany, you got some problems.
$2,000, €2,538, because the sticker they slapped over the logo, each bag could be easily removed, leading to brand confusion. It is confusing. So they
Who
talk
gets
about.
hurt from that though?
Well, there was a bar owner, and he's like, "Yeah, I do this special mac and cheese, which I top with flaming hot Cheetos. So I bring, and I go through about a bag a week, so I'm able to manage it like black market." But he said the biggest problem he has is his servers and bartenders will eat the Cheetos. It's like the forbidden fruit.
Okay.
If you can't have something, you want it, right? That's how it goes. And this young lady, she wanted freedom from her marriage, but she chose the wrong way to go about
just
it.
get a divorce.
Widow spends GoFundMe donations from husband's death on gifts for her lover accused of killing him. It's just sad.
So that was her husband. She planned the whole thing. She hired a guy to do it, and I don't know why she paid so much for this murder. We've heard about murder for hire before. People pay like 10 grand.
But maybe she was really hoping that no one would know.
Well, they found out.
She was like, "Oh, I'll pay for the extra services," and then
$58,000. She never paid for the funeral. The money was for the funeral. She never paid for it.
I'm amazed that people gave her money. I guess a lot of times people will post stuff like that, like funeral help or medical bill help, on like Facebook or something, and people just blindly donate it to it, maybe.
Well, no, I mean, she had a very horrific. He was killed right next to her. Of course, she planned all that.
But yeah, I guess
But
no one knew at the time.
People didn't know.
Yeah.
They thought that she was just out for a walk, and her husband was ruthlessly murdered, which he was.
Did she have to act, you think? Like, oh no.
Oh, there's a YouTube channel called Jim Can't Swim about criminal psychology. And there's one girl on there who does this exact same thing, and you get to watch her entire police interrogation, and like you get to see the moment they explain to her that was a cop. You hired a cop.
Ooh.
And you're like, you can see the hamster.
Oh no.
But she just gaslights them. She's like, no, that didn't happen. Didn't work. And our final story is just a fun little thing. I love to look at kind of East versus West. Imagine if this happened here. Definitely China and Japan have a whole different culture in terms of wokeness than we do.
Obese diners to be banned from entering naked restaurant because it will be quote unquote miserable for other guests.
Here's my question.
This is in the UK.
What the sanitary aspects of this, regardless of whether you're large or small, why would I ever want to sit on a bench someone else sat their bare ass on?
No, it's paper. They give you paper underwear.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, but still, imagine like I don't know what kind. Maybe they have nice tables. They probably have pull-out chairs. But if it was a booth, the slide, the slide is what
That
gets
sound, I can hear it.
Or like maybe if it's a fast food type situation, you're getting your food and they're like, oh that booth just opened up. Let's hush over there. And there's like condensation.
Also, do you take your clothes off? Is there like a locker room?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to too. You don't get you can't just be a tourist.
I don't get the appeal of this.
Well, they also eat off the naked women, which
I also don't get the appeal of. All I'm thinking about is all the nastiness, like the sweat, the pubes, like I don't.
And where we are right now with like public cleanliness and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, people weren't washing their hands 2 years ago before all this happened, and now you want to have this?
Maybe. What if, Krista? What if doing this leads us to a perfect world of everyone washing their genitalia
No, it definitely won't.
and their backsides?
There's a if we ever get interstellar travel and we can visit other planets, we know how successful or how much of a failure their society is, but how clean their public toilets are.
That'd be great if you go in the bathroom of that place and there's just kind of like a power wash hose and a drain.
I mean, at Earth, by that standard, we are literally at press the reset button levels of public toiletry. So it's bad. It's really bad.
But isn't Japan at the vanguard of good toilets?
They are.
I thought you said this was the UK.
This is.
Oh.
Isn't this a Chinese diner in the UK?
I didn't catch that.
Oh no, it's set to open in Tokyo.
Tokyo, yeah, Japan.
Oh, the Evening Standard's in the UK. Okay, my bad.
If fat people are allowed in, it can be miserable for some guests.
Well, couldn't you say that about any body type though? Like,
we are aiming for a sort of Roman aesthetic, like the beautiful paintings you see in museums.
No.
Which is weird because none of those people are from Roman descent. Oh, no tattoos as well.
Does that mean the toilets are going to be like the giant bench with just seats and that everyone holds hands while they go to the bathroom like they did in Rome?
And like every 500th visitor is stabbed to death with daggers.
Mm.
The no tattoos thing is really good. That also weeds out the Yakuza, right?
That's why a lot of Japan doesn't like tattoos because of that.
Because there are Roman style baths where things happen. That's in Tokyo, where it's just like a giant.
That's everywhere.
Yeah,
but it's a different thing that's happening there. Yeah. Oddly enough, those places tend to just be one gender.
Huh? That's weird.
Anyway,
hopefully more news hasn't happened this week.
Yeah, hopefully nothing too bad.
And you had a fun time hanging out. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye.